All right, welcome everybody. We're excited to get going today. This is the AI CX Summit. I'll be your host today. I'm Gabe Larson. I'm the CRO over at Autonom, and my special guest is Dave Elkington, CEO of Autonom. Dave, thanks for joining.
Excited to be here, man. This is a big event. We have more people at this event than we've ever had at any event in our past. This is yes. Here we go. Show us what we got.
Yeah. Let me take you through some of it. Look, this is going to be a fun day. We'll go through agenda and some of the logistical items before we jump in. But as Dave alluded, we didn't quite cross 10,000, but boy, we got really close to it. So 9,000 people jumped in. And Dave, I got to say, I think it's because of this. You know, when we were starting out and we were debating this idea, if you remember, one person said, hey, I wanted to go to CCW. I wanted to get out to the call center week, but it cost a fortune. I'm in Boston. I had to take a whole week off. The ticket was like $1,500. But I feel like I'm falling behind. And we said, why don't we do a virtual event?
Yeah.
No paid speakers, no paid sponsors, no paid reg. Eat at your own leisure. You can watch this now. You can watch it tomorrow.
Yep. Hang out in your underwear, hang out in your suit. Like, it doesn't matter.
It'll be like a Netflix type experience. And have people said, hey, we want the content. We really want to jump in. And we're so appreciative of all that have joined. Again, 9,000 registrants. You can see we did jump in and do the awards program. This was crazy, your idea, right? Dave.
The awards went viral. Like, we had 13,000 votes, and some individuals got thousands of votes. I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
Well, and look, the thing is, I almost just, you want to recognize, as we were talking about this, it's such a great moment to recognize those who are trying to push us forward, trying to push the space forward. Right. And so, no, this is not some, crazy award show, but we wanted to take a moment and again, thank those who are pushing it out. And so we will talk about that. We did, Dave, if you remember, we have thought leaders, we've got leaders, we've got outsourced, those who are outsourcing BPO
providers. That's right. Yep.
So we'll dive into a couple of those categories, but boy, that was fun to see people really jump into that. In addition, we did cross over 20 speakers. And again, I got to thank these people. As I said, we wanted to make this a no-cost event. I know people, you've done virtual events, but there's always a little bit of a paid sponsor, paid
speakers usually. So every speaker here today is doing this to basically support the community. To do
that's
this
right
on their own time, at their own dime.
And honestly, a lot of these people were extremely busy. Trying to track them down and get them going was at times difficult because you'll see the titles in the companies from Uber to Instructure to Henry Schein. We'll be hearing from some of these to some awesome BPO. It's hard to get these people, but they volunteered their time, Dave, and I'm so thankful.
And the thing I love about this, Gabe, is as we were preparing this, doing this event, people really said, look, we want to have a spectrum of like Fortune 500. So you have companies like Henry Schein, they're on the Fortune 500 list, and Instructure, who are one of the largest, I think they're the largest ed tech company in the world, to very smaller companies. So you get perspective of people from every segment.
Yeah. And again, excited. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. So I do want to jump into that. So here's kind of the agenda. Again, this is how it'll lay out. So Dave and I wanted to kick it off. Welcome everybody. Dive in a little bit to the kind of almost the state of the state, what's going on in CX, and maybe just share some of the stories that we're seeing. I think the thing, Dave, that people are lacking right now is we're hearing so much theory. We're hearing about where AI could win and should win and maybe, but they're lacking a lot of like what is happening. Can we get into really where it's winning and losing? And so we're wanting to touch a little bit on that. Just Dave and I, as I think we're both in the Dave in particular.
We're in the deep end, bro. We're in the
thick of it, trying to figure out how to make this AI stuff work. After that, we're going to bring on, as we said, Rachel from Instructure. Really cool. And I think this one was important, Dave, because everybody's on a different part of the journey on their AI path. And the thing I loved about Rachel, if you remember when we first got on with her, she's like, guys, we're at the beginning. Great. Welcome to probably the majority.
But this is I mean, she's the chief customer officer of, again, one of the largest companies in the world. And she was very vulnerable. She's just like, look, I'm not sure you want me to speak here. And I said, no, that's exactly who we want to
Totally.
speak, right?
Totally. I just think everybody's kind of at a different phase, and awesome to get her as they begin kind of their phased approach to really roll out AI in the right way. After that, we're going to jump over to Henry Schein. Nate's got such an incredible story. I feel like he's been making the rounds lately. He was on a podcast with a group called T-Tech. He's been interviewed from a couple different outlets. I think they've got an incredible story about AI in a call center that is actually working, right, Dave?
All right. One of the largest, from what I can tell, one of the largest deployments of AI in the CX space that I've ever heard of. So this will be an impressive conversation.
Yeah, and then to kind of round it off, we'll bring on Hannah from Arrive, and also I think a really incredible story about really trying to push the boundary on where AI can work and not work in kind of that e-commerce, retail sector there. So
a different segment, right?
Yep. So I think it'll be a really fun kind of overview as we hit some of our keynotes. We will end this quote unquote live session with the awards that we talked about.
This is live. This is not pre-recorded. So like any stupid things that either Gabe or I say, you can't take it back. So
it'll happen, and you'll just have to deal with it, unfortunately.
It'll be PG-13 though. Don't worry, it's not R.
We'll keep it definitely kosher. And then with the awards, we're trying to bring a few of them on just to, again, find ways to recognize people in the community who are pushing the boundaries, I think, in all things CX. So that'll be kind of the keynote. And then, as we said, we'll go into kind of our Netflix type experience. And this is your on-demand sessions that I probably had, Dave, over 100 people write me and be like, oh, I can't make it, on the day of. Yeah. Great. Totally fine. We wanted to make this easy for you. Jump in tomorrow, jump in the next day, jump in tonight. Consume this at your leisure, 1x speed, 2x speed. But you do have some amazing sessions from some outsourced BPOs. Rita, I love that session with Rita from Horatio, diving into what she's seeing in the space. These BPOs are being hit with. How do you manage kind of onshore, offshore, and now smart shore?
Yep.
The combination. That was a really fun one. Julie, her experience.
What is smart shore? Just, you've got to hit that very fast.
Yeah, look, I think it's just a buzzword, from some of these BPOs as they think about.
It's a real thing, and it's trending.
Yeah, how to get AI as a combination in a transformational project. AI is not alone a transformational project. People alone are not a transformational project. So how are you combining your people strategy with your AI strategy, offshore, nearshore, smart shore, to really deliver what people want, which is that transformational experience? So I think that's going to be really fun. We had Daniel join us, Daniel from Uber, from Japan. we caught him a little after hours, but he brought in some of the techniques they're using, obviously overseas, that Japanese culture. Dave, that.
Yeah.
Fascinating. What, you spent a couple years over there, right?
Yeah, I was 2 years. Lived there for 2 years. So
yeah, just such a different view of customer experience, but brought some of that in that I think is awesome. And then Nick from GFL, if you're tuning in, Nick, I think a large customer experience. Waste management, just a different framing on how
one of the largest companies in the world. Actually, it's one of those sleeper companies that, like, they're a behemoth, but they think about it very differently, and it makes sense because their products are different.
Yeah. So, and then to round it off, I loved our session with Elise Attio, a fast-growing SaaS startup, trying to reinvent the CRM category and how they're thinking about customer service. So I only highlight some of those, Dave, just so you can kind of get a feel of
what I love is what I said earlier. You have companies that are some of the largest in the world, and then you have a SaaS startup. And so it really gives, like, I think the thing people wanted to hear about today was what's working and what's not working and why.
Yeah.
And you see it in every industry and every segment from the speakers today. It's pretty, I think
those will be fun sessions. Again, feel free to grab those at your leisure. We wanted to make this simple for you so that you feel like you can get caught up in, Dave said, what's working, what's not working in CX. So Dave, with that, I'm going to kind of block the slides here real quick. And what I'd love to do in just our last, 15, 20 minutes here is see if I can pull from you just a conversation here. What is working? What's not working in CX?
Right.
You have a really popular newsletter. You spend a ton of time, probably too much time. No offense.
No, it's too much time. Let's anchor on that for a minute. I need to spend less time on that stupid newsletter.
Yeah, making sure you kind of stay abreast on the on big picture topics in AI. And I'd love for you to start there. Don't go CX yet. Just
Yeah.
how are you seeing the market shape? What's going on with AI? SaaS, give us kind of your take, and then let's dive a little bit into some of the things more CX related.
Yeah, I mean, let's go kind of macro of like what's happening in AI right now, and then let's like you said, let's zero in. But we're in this weird phase of AI that it's really moving away from like this trendy, popular, like you and I had this conversation actually unrelated to today's event about how a year ago everybody was like there was this imperative to have an AI strategy. It was really I've never seen anything like this in my my
Yeah.
25 years in technology. Um, it went from like literally every conversation was, hey, my board, my CEO, my investors are saying I must deploy an AI strategy. Again, it was an imperative. Today, it's now moved to an objective. Like it's like, hey, we should do this, but everything's changing. It's really I would say the underlying trend behind this is it went from deploy something and just get AI working to we need an ROI.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cynicism around failed deployments. There's a lot of cynicism around just effective AI. And so again, if you go very, very
Fascinating.
big picture, what's really trending right now is just a week ago, NVIDIA just raised a $500 billion fund. This like I've never heard like just make sure you guys understood what I said. A $500 billion fund. And what it's so self-serving. The purpose of the fund is to invest in companies who want to buy NVIDIA chips. Like that's it. And it's, by the
I
way,
like that idea. We should do the
should
same
we do
thing.
that? Okay.
We
All
should do
right.
the same.
Let's pause. Everybody pause. We're going to go do a round real fast. No. So what's fascinating is like every major private equity firm, large investment group, basically there's 6 or 8 of them, Apollo, again, literally every major private equity fund backed this. And so you have one segment of the industry that's just still dumping money into infrastructure. And then you have this other segment of the industry that is just dropping costs. So like 2 weeks ago, you have Chinese open weight models like Kimi-Key, and they basically just gave a deep reasoning model away for free. Like and so you have on one side, Anthropic, who by the way, just passed 60 billion in annualized revenue, and their growth rate just passed OpenAI. So if you look at last Q2, OpenAI's growth rate, it was like 20 some odd percent. Don't hold me to that. It's somewhere in that ballpark. Whereas Anthropic's growth rate is now over 100%. So you have this competition happening, but really at root all of this, and it kind of comes, to home for all of us, is there's this drive to push the AI cost down. So you have Kimi-Key and these open weight models that are basically giving them away for free. And then you have Meta and Zuckerberg, who's like, oh, I've got to now go pivot. I've invested billions of like last quarter, Meta got punished because even though their growth rate in AI was great, their profitability was nothing. And so it was like under $1 billion in free cash flow. And so the market punished these guys. And so what they said is, great, we're going to then drive the cost down. We're going to buy up market. And the challenge, what's really interesting is we're still not like individual companies aren't seeing ROI because they're not really seeing, I mean, the model cost and the inference cost has gone way down. Like we're talking an order of magnitude of 10x cheaper, maybe less. OpenAI has dropped cost. Like everybody's kind of following suit with the exception of Anthropic. That's a different conversation. And so the question is, how do companies drive value out of all of this shift? Again, one half is build data centers, buy inference chips. And then the other one is drive model cost way down. And that kind of puts us to what we're really talking about today.
Yeah, fascinating. I got to ask you, Claude, OpenAI, which one's better? I mean, they're both growing, but one sounds like it's growing way better. Holy smokes.
So I use all of them, right? As you'd expect. I've got, Cursor, we have, Claude Code, I have Codex, I have Grok. I just, I've been using Manus. I just always need to kind of test. And I'm testing those all the way from, Fable down to like whatever. I'm just testing every model. Right now, my preference, and this is purely preference, so I'm going to get haters from this and, screw all of you. I like Codex. And this is a transition I made just a week ago where I think my main workhorse was Claude Code and Claude Cowork. Like that was my day to day. And it feels like I'm getting the language is less effective. Even with Fable, it's just it's just not as good. There's like the language is still like, as you know, a week ago, by the way, Anthropic put fingerprints in the text, which means anybody in the world can say, "Oh, this was written with AI." I mean, I kind of don't like that. I mean, even if it is, like, don't do that to me. Like, come on.
Well, it's like it's it just gets a little dicey. It's like, did you use AI assist or something? All of a sudden, it's like I wrote most of it. I just did spell check, so watch out for that. But
I know. So Codex, my
Codex, got it,
and it's good.
And then you hit on.
Let me pause though. For all, just if you get nothing out of this, build skills files. Like if you're going to use any of these tools, you need to teach it how to work with you. So I'm like virtually every day, I'm updating my skills files for different tasks. So like with my newsletter, I've got a fairly lengthy set of instructions that I'm like, here's exactly what I want you to do. Research this way, structure this way. Don't use this kind of language. Do use this kind of language. So be very, very purposeful about it.
Fascinating. And then just on the pricing, I think that's something that a lot of people are wondering. You talked about kind of the models and the push down. Thoughts on how pricing is going to go? Are we going to see, and I'm thinking from the CX standpoint, are we going to continue to be able to say, hey, AI can do some of this work at a fifth the cost of a human counterpart, or is it going to just rise? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, here's where we're at, where we're in this hype cycle of this technology. You can't deny this will disrupt every aspect of our life, including the entire CX department.
Yeah.
And we can talk about what that means in terms of disrupt, from a man, a head count all the way to a tool set. But generally speaking, we're going to see prices go down. And that is a little bit of a provocative thing to say. But what's really happened is most companies have raised a bunch of venture or private equity money, and they're subsidizing the cost. So they're actually losing every time you use their product. In most cases, they're losing money. But what we're seeing now is there's enough players and competition is driving those margins down. So like if you look at like NVIDIA's gross profit, it's ludicrous. If you look at, they're making so much EBITDA. They should be taught, it's shameful. But what we're going to see is those prices are going to slowly decline just as competition comes out, like these open weight models overseas. I mean, China is really giving us a run for our money. Like many of their models are as good, or even in some cases I find better. And so that's driving those costs down. But from a tactical standpoint, as you think about deploying AI in your company, and you're going to hear about this lots today, generally speaking, you should see a cost savings from whether it's an assist or an autonomous replacement. You're looking at anywhere from a third the cost of the human counterpart to do the task or the job, all the way as much as maybe a 5x cost savings. So we should be seeing meaningful cost savings. Though I think one of our speakers today was like, nope, AI is going to be more expensive. I don't see it that way.
I love it.
He was adamant, right? He was like,
no. I won't name names. You'll hear the session. But look, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, but it's interesting to kind of get the perspective. So want to see if we can shift here in the last 10 minutes and just hit a couple stories. I think people are always anxious to see what's working, what's not working. And so wanted to start, you and I talked a little about a communication software provider doing more medical, dental. Maybe explain a little bit about that, what's going on and some of the lessons learned.
As we prep for this, we thought this would be kind of interesting. So we hit some of our, our partners, customers, people who are succeeding and failing. And so we thought, look, let's give a couple of stories of like success and a couple of stories of like real failures. So this one is an interesting company. They're one of the larger kind of practice management software providers in the world. And what they're doing is largely providing just a receptionist type AI. And it's not, what's interesting in this use case is it's wildly successful. So you have several, hundreds, thousands of different practices, different offices that are using this, but they're not trying to replace the receptionist. In this case, they're, it's an after hours. And the amazing thing, it's after hours and like overflow. And so
which is interesting because that I think that's one of the debates, Dave, is, do we always need to replace people, or do we do an assistant? And these guys started small and said, you know what, let's do something that is actually pretty crappy right now. Basically a pretty crappy IVR voice message. that was being after hours, right? That was kind of what the current use case was. And how do you take something like that and make it better?
And look, you're comparing just answering machines like voicemail to an after hours AI receptionist. And so the important thing is 30% of business comes in for a practice of some kind, a doctor's office, a chiropractic office, a dental office. 30% of that revenue comes in after hours. And so the first thing you do is it's just an immediate cost saving. It's not a human replacement, but it's a way to drive immediate value. Now, what's interesting is several of the physicians reached out and said, well, my clients don't love this. Like I'm getting a lot of real negative feedback on this experience. And I said, oh, that's super interesting. How does this compare to getting a voicemail? And they're like, oh, well, that's better. Like it's much better. And so I think
the feedback was better. The numbers were better. The conversion was better.
Yeah. Like across the board, better. Like they did like lots of like, hey, how did this compare to no one answering or going to voicemail during the day and no one, doesn't, you don't get it. Like, actually, I called a physician yesterday for my daughter and I left a voicemail and they're like, oh, we'll get back to you within, the next day. Nothing. Of course, nothing. Of course.
So
it's better.
So
like, hard. Of course it's better, but it's not as good as a human. So that's one example where AI is measurably better.
Yeah, I love that one. Okay, jump to the next one. You had an interesting conversation with the CEO recently of a large kind of ed tech company. Curious how that went down. Thoughts on that? What was the lesson learned from that?
So this was an interesting one. Again, they're very large. Order of magnitude, several hundred million, billion in revenue a year. And this company, their CEO, basically, as he and I talked, they were like early in their process of evaluating. And so we spoke to their head of CX, and they were like, "Oh, we've got a vendor. We're good." And I was talking to the CEO, and he's like, "Here's the problem. This vendor, we kept asking for customer.
This is an AI. This is an AI specific vendor.
Yeah. So it's one I don't want to name names, but it was one of the big ones. Like everybody knows the name of this AI inbound support CX vendor.
Sure.
And they're like, "Hey, what? Give us a customer that's at scale that matches our scale that we can speak to." And they're like, "Great." And they gave them this company, and they spoke to him, and it was good. Like it was a good reference. And they're like, "Great. Can we just get a couple more?" And the sales rep was like, "Absolutely. Let me get it from my team." And the CEO said, a week later, they asked him like, "Oh yeah, here it is." And they gave him the same name. And then they're like, "Oh no. Okay, cool. We got this one. We spoke to him, but let's do it. Like, give us somebody else." And they're like, "Got it." And then they went 3 times. And at the end of the day, there was only this one big reference.
Like months later, it's like the same story.
Literally months later, it's the same company. So
what does that mean? Yeah. So
the learning here is, I don't think people are quite as developed or at scale on some of these projects as their venture.
Oh, I mean, look, and again, I know the name of this company. If they're having a hard time getting
they've raised
reputable case studies, I mean, that's got to let everybody know you're not that far behind. I mean, I think most people would think these guys must be able to give me 1,000 case studies of large deployments of AI and contact centers, customers. One.
He said it was like 4 or 5 times, I don't remember, that they came back with the same company, the same reference. And he's like, no, guys, you don't get it. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll get you one. Just give us a few days."
Hoping you'd forget, right? Hoping you'd forget. Yeah. So I'd look at maybe one takeaway is always
you're not
ask
as far behind as you think you are. Because if this company can only muster up one really compelling case study, people are just not that far down this path.
I love it. So continuing on here, just again, rapid fire. You and I talked about kind of a big software company playing more in the fitness space and some experiences and conversations you had there. What was the lesson and kind of story?
I mean, this one was an interesting one also, where I spoke with the CEO, and most of these successful projects come down from still an executive level, because you need that financial sponsorship. You need that financial, because to get these things deployed, you need to clear the boundaries of.
It's an important mention. Yeah. That's the right. Politics. So you got to start off.
You have to start with the CEO. But in this case, what we found was the head of CX, and again, this is a very large multinational company. We spoke to the head of CX. And she was like, oh no, we have a vendor. And we're like, cool, this is great. Like, because we were doing projects in other areas. So we're like, you've got it. And the CEO was like, no. And then she actually paused and said, actually, you're right. Like we should probably test this in another use case. And she's like, everybody should have multi-vendor redundancy in this situation. Like that's the first lesson out of this example is, well, the second, I guess. The first is, get executive sponsorship. The second one was like, be testing multiple vendors. Like in every case, like don't trust any one vendor, which again, as this is what we do at Autonom, but don't trust us. Like you should test us against everybody else. Like don't at any given time be running multiple pilots, like just kind of a key lesson. The fourth thing, I think I'm on 4. I lost track too. Let's just say it's 4. Let's say 4. Okay. So the fourth thing I would say also is, and this is probably the most important lesson, was she said, okay, this use case we're using right now with another vendor, we're getting like an 80% deflection rate on these inbound calls. And I was like, bro, we're done. Like you shouldn't talk to anybody else. That is absolute success. Like stop. And she's like, okay, well, that being said, it's taking very few calls and it's a very like narrow use case. And it's mostly just an answering machine. And
it's pretty basic.
Like, okay, that's interesting. So she's like, well, let's deploy your stuff in a different use case. And I was like, cool. What do you think? And then she gave us the most complex use case she has in her company. Like we all have this customer. It's like the problem customer. And she's like, look, if your AI could solve this problem, let's go. And we're like, wait a second. It feels like there's maybe some middle ground between, hey, this is the dumbest use case we have in our company, to the problem child. Like and so that's the other thing I'd say. Don't try and automate. Start simple and then increment your way out.
Yeah. Instead of moving down the spectrum fast.
That's right.
Got to hit one of the things you've seen fail. What hasn't worked? What are some of the things you'd kind of point to there as you've seen and talked to different companies trying to kind of do more with less?
I have 2 really good examples, and I know we only have a couple of minutes, but they're in both cases. One is one of the largest manufacturing parts company in the automotive space in North America. Like very, everybody knows the name. And the other one is a manufacturing company. I got to be careful here because they failed, so I don't want to disclose who they are. We'll just say in the luxury space. We'll leave it at that.
Good.
In both cases, they tried to deploy in one case, it was a use case that the humans didn't have nailed down. So the lesson here, like meaning they were like, hey, we haven't figured this out in a normal process. Like this has never existed, but boy, maybe AI can do this. We can't, but maybe AI can do this. And I would say if a human is not running this process, your AI will fail at almost 100% likelihood. So that's kind of the lesson out of that is like, don't do processes, don't automate with AI processes that humans aren't using successfully. So that's kind of process one. The second one was, man, they had some crazy fitment, like AI had to do some sort of insane math that was, again, very, very complex. And so I would say keep it simple, like start in both cases. One was like a brand new thing, like, oh, maybe AI can do this because humans can't. And the other one was humans were doing it, but it was like, boy, there was some black magic and, so the black arts in trying to figure out these processes. So I love keep standard processes.
I love it, man. So you and I were chatting as we were going through just some of the stuff, you're seeing, we're seeing. It felt like there was maybe 3, maybe 4 kind of big things as you see these deployments in AI winning and losing. Maybe we can hit those as we finish up and move to the next section.
Yeah.
One was executive sponsorship. I know you mentioned that, right? It's like, look,
you have to have executive sponsorship.
You got to have that to make sure you kind of go top down. So that's
2,
a big one.
Data. You've got to know
the data piece.
You have like the other failed deployments, and this is kind of both sides, right? If you don't have good data, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be centralized. It can be in Salesforce's, knowledge-based system. It can be in Word docs. It doesn't really matter. But look, the systems are only as good as the data you have. So I would say that's the second thing. The third thing, so executive sponsorship, you have to have access to good data. remind me, Gabe, I'm getting old.
No, we talked metric, making sure.
Yeah, thank you. So if you don't, this one's okay. This is my favorite. Okay, we can even end with this one. This is so good. We had a client who we were running, this process that we were doing kind of A/B split testing every week where we were running it. We'd evaluate the results, run it, evaluate the results. This was going over a pilot over several weeks. And it was at the end of the pilot where we were supposed to sit down and evaluate. Well, one of the key stakeholders, as we were kind of evaluating, was like, hey, this isn't working. Like, hey, appreciate it. Thanks for all the work. We're going to pull the plug. And Gabe actually was on the call, and Gabe was like, well, cool, guys, but I do have this deck of the split test between, the results of the pilot and the A/B test of the people who weren't running it. And, Gabe was like, well, I'm just kind of a dumb boy here from Utah, but here's what the readout says. I don't know what it means. And it was just obviously like the AI was performing super well. The intuition of everybody, again, the CEO, the executive suite want to either drive growth or cost savings. Below that, naturally, we're resistant to AI because it's disruptive. It could mean my friends might not work here. It could mean I get demoted.
Change in general. Mm-hmm.
And so the intuition, the gut of most people is going to be, this isn't going to work. So you need a baseline metrics before you start. You need to A/B test pilots as you're running them. And then you need to evaluate, objectively, not subjectively at the end. And really look,
at
the end of the day, you should be running multiple pilots. You should be like different vendors. If you're not constant, it's just like you asked me like what AI tools I'm using today. It's, I use all of them.
Everything.
That should be your answer. You should be running small pilots, 90-day, 120-day pilots with lots of different vendors. There is cost savings. It is there's failed pilots, but most of those failed pilots are no sponsorship,
just some of that stuff.
No data.
No, man, I love it. I love it.
So really
I love it.
Save money, drive revenue.
Cool. Well, Dave, it's fun to talk again. Excited for today. We're going to kind of end this opening session and move to our next keynote. And this one's going to be fun, Dave. So I'm going to bring Rachel on.
I'm excited for this.
Rachel, how are you?
Hello. It's great to see y'all.
Yes, this is going to be a fun one. We're obviously going to be talking about your journey as you've tried to get automation and AI into the business. And boy, you guys are doing some cool stuff over there. So Dave, Rachel, I'm going to bounce on this one and let you two take it from here. So Dave, over to you.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, Rachel, thank you. Like this, amazing. Thanks for joining us. Super excited to hear kind of where you're at in your journey. And there's a lot that's actually pretty meaty, but let's start. Give some context to people listening in. We have, I think you heard over 9,000 people attending today. Awesome. I know it's crazy, right?
I love it, Dave. I just caught a little bit of yours and Gabe's banter back and forth. So it's such a great conversation just now. So I'm super excited to jump into even some of the things that you guys just talked about. I'm sure we'll kind of get back to it. So a little bit about me. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Instructure. Folks might not know Instructure, but they might know Canvas, which is the dominant learning management system in the world. Hopefully, if, maybe your kids or you used Canvas at some point. We connect teachers, teaching and learning. Yeah, we're behind the learning experience in the world. It's a great place to be. And I'm super proud to work for a company that not only leads Canvas, but also Parchment and our Mastery, which is our assessment business. We're global. We're in over 150 countries. And I'm proud to lead our post-sales organization. So think everything that goes into making our customers successful, our global support, professional services, training, community, and of course, customer success. I lead a team of roughly 800-ish total across the globe.
Like meaningful scale here. Like this is not a team of 30 BPO support people. This is like you're running the entire thing, right? So your perspective will be, I think, very fascinating. And you guys are large. Again, I'll tout the largest ed tech company in the world. You guys are everywhere. So just so everybody listening, if you have children, they're using the technology. If you went to college in the last 20 years, you've used the technology. If you it is pervasively throughout our culture, and you own everything post sales, right?
That is correct. Not product, obviously, but on the go-to-market side.
Yeah, product's the easy stuff. Who cares? So your perspective is first off, I think super helpful and very interesting because you were very real. As we were prepping, you were like, look, Dave, I don't know that I'm the right person to come speak. And I'm like, no, you are literally the perfect person to come speak, because I think everybody's closer to where you're at than maybe some of those stories we were telling just a few minutes ago.
Sure. Yeah, look, I was very honest with you. We're in early innings on it. And I heard you talk about with Gabe, leading in when I was in the behind the stage, so to speak, on some of the, the casualties in rushing and some of the, things that people make mistakes. And, I heard you talk about data and this and that. And I think, look, we have been trying to be, it's hard because you want to move fast. You want to get hands on keyboards. You want to experiment. We've done some of that, and I could talk about that. But I think you also need to have an honest look in the mirror to say, what's our level of readiness, and what do we have? What do we need to be true to really be successful here, and where are we? And what do we need to do ahead of the tool? To me, or the technology is one piece of it. It's all the work that goes into it that I think we've been really focused on is readiness. Making sure that we're ready to go, and that's where a lot of the planning has been done today. But it feels slow, though. It feels slow. It feels like we're behind the 8 ball, but maybe we're not. Maybe you go slow to get fast, right?
I don't think you are. And look, that is the hard thing. Like, the easy thing is to buy some tool, right? Like, how easy is it to buy something? What's hard is like building the processes ahead of time. What's hard is all of that other stuff. So first off, again, you guys are a very large organization. Where is the drive to deploy AI? Like, where's this coming from? Is this a bottoms up thing? Is this your private equity owned? Is this coming from the top down? Is this like your team? Like, help us understand, because I think, and what I'm trying to get at is, what are the other people listening? What are their motivations, and they can benchmark against what's working for you?
Sure. It's a great question. I'm going to try to answer it a couple ways. I think that we look at it from a couple lenses. I think one is, the benefit of AI as a value unlock to our folks, right? If we look at, especially in customer experience across the spectrum, and I think I'll talk to you a little bit about what work we've done. This kind of bleeds into some of the preparation, the readiness that we've done. Is, you think about it, I joke that, I've worked my whole career in technology, but I'm in the people business, right? People, the experience that we deliver with people. And so I'm very big on how do we ensure that the people that come to work, that choose to be support, that choose to be services, success, they choose this craft because they love customers and they want to make an impact and they want to deliver value. It's full stop. Yeah. That's what they want to do. Nobody comes and takes this role because they want to be buried in case, administrative minutia and meeting setup and email triage. Like, nobody chooses this role for that, right? Yeah. And so if you go into it with that perspective, one lens is obviously, how can we, automate some of that administrative drag, which I would say is actually gotten to like the worst it's ever been for, I think, a lot of customer facing professionals.
That's interesting. Why do you think? What's the cause of that?
Yeah, well, because I think that the ability to provide personalized service and immediacy is, I think, the expectation of every customer. Yeah. And the gap between our ability to do that and to deliver that with human beings has become really, really hard. You used to be able to throw people at it. Now, this is where back to the PE lens comes, right? I think that, how do you do that efficiently? How do you do that in a way that
just throw bodies at anymore?
Correct.
And that's the whole world, right? Like, the whole world changed about 2 or 3 years ago, where basically public investors and private equity investors are like, look, grow, but do it efficiently. And by the way, don't lose customers. Make sure they're happy through this whole process.
That's right. And I do think it's a win-win. And I do think that some people over-index. And I have to say, we did a take private with KKR a little over almost 2 years now. And it's been a great experience. And they're very growth-oriented. And they care deeply about customer satisfaction and NPS and the experience. And so our real goal here is to make this a win-win. How can we improve the personalization, the value, the unlock for our people so that they can do more of the work that they love, while also making it more efficient in the areas that we need to.
That makes sense. So, and so really the driver for you, if I kind of interpret it, I mean, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but you've got this imperative, almost an impossible imperative of like driving costs down, driving efficiency, and keeping people happy. And your AI is a potential solution for your organization, you feel like?
It's not a potential, it's a must-have. I don't see us having to get, I don't see us getting, we've got, we're very blessed in that we've had some tremendous growth over the last few years. It has not slowed down. And so, we have to, because we are going to keep growing, and we have to figure out a ways to automate some of this drag. What we've done, and I think this is is I think you've got to bring your people along, because this is as much about people as anything else. The mindset, getting over the fear, getting over the threat of what does AI mean to me. And so we've actually done a pretty exhaustive exercise where we've gone through our customer journey, and we've looked at the different areas of the journey to say, what are the things that we believe we can and should fully automate?
Oh, I love this.
What are the things that we should augment? So things that need to still be human, but need to be agentic assisted.
Mm-hmm.
And then what are those things that we feel are really uniquely human and need to stay human? And that's actually the hardest, because I think it's actually what was so fascinating about the exercise is we were so quick to identify things that we could automate or augment, but then you've got to really ring fence the things that we think are uniquely differentiated. What makes Instructure special? What do we want to keep human, and why is that important? And I think stitching that together was a really valuable exercise for us.
I got to pause you because that's a genius framework. And I just want everyone listening to understand this. So, and you talk about this work that you're doing to prepare. So you basically segmented all of your internal processes into 3. So hit those one more time for everybody.
Sure. It was, we looked at everything from, the pre-sales scoping process and how we, gather requirements from customers, or in this case, prospects before they're even customers, all the way through, the typical things, onboarding, kickoffs, the adoption process, and then all the way through renewal expansion, right? The traditional, for those of you listening that have, know all those different stages. And then, but we didn't even make it by role. And this is really important. We actually did it intentionally, not by department, because we didn't want the siloed, or by role, because this was about what's the work, the jobs to be done.
Yeah.
Let's take it out of that piece of it, and let's really focus on the work that's actually happening. And what work do we want to see either be, again, automated, which was fully hands,
completely automated. Yep.
Augmented. So assisted.
Yep. Kind of a co-pilot approach. Like it helps.
Co-pilot, and then of course there's onions to peel back beyond that, because it's like, well, what's the level, and where's the initial, and then really keeping human.
Yeah.
And we've done that, and now we're actually going through the process. So you're kind of getting me in real time. Where are we? Yeah. We're now prioritizing, because you can imagine there's a lot you want to do, right? And this is over a multiple quarter-year time horizon. This isn't all going to be solved tomorrow. So the next logical thing is, okay, where then is our readiness? So the other big thing we did was, and this is something that I encourage folks to do, is where is our ability to execute on this? How would we prioritize this work? A lot comes down to, do we have the right people internally to do this stuff? And so the other thing that we did, actually in the same time frame that we did this exercise, was we did a calibrated 9-box. My leaders, my directors.
This was fascinating, by the way.
I know. So, well, it's all.
I shared this, and I was like, "Oh, this is genius."
Messy. It's all that messy work that nobody wants to talk about. But it's like
But if you don't do this, you're just buying tech, which doesn't work.
Yeah, because I think part of what we also did was we said, look, we also have to 9-box our people to say, where are our leaders? Where do they sit in the 9-box? For those of you that don't know 9-box, it's a framework to look at talent assessment against your highest potential performing leaders, and puts them in different things. It's not like a black and white bad or good. It's just kind of a way to look at your leaders against different lenses. But that's
what you did it in context to their ability. You say it. I won't steal your thunder.
Yeah, this was done in the context of it was done, and then we did it looking at the context of transformation, because let's be honest, that is essentially what we're doing. We are going through a major transformation, and I think you have to look at who do you have on the bus and their ability to carry this through, because if you don't have the right folks to drive that, that's going to be problematic.
It literally will be a millstone.
It can be. And look, I'm a big people developer. So I think the other way to also look at is, what investments do we need to make to then invest in our folks to make them successful, right? What do we need to do, whether that's skills investments, whether that's coaching. I recently did a hackathon where, got
This is so
enterprise.
good too. I need everybody to pause it. But okay, before you go
But
there, 'cause I
it
wanna hit
opened
that.
up. But yeah. So I want to be careful. It's not necessarily like we're making you're in and
Fire,
you're
it's
out.
not fire
Where do
or
people need
retain.
help? Yeah, where
Yes.
do people need help coaching development, and how do we ensure that we have the right success going into it from a leadership perspective?
So I want everyone to, again, pause and take notes. So we've learned two kind of like really critical like action items. One, evaluate your processes and the jobs to be done, not by department because you get siloed, but
Or
in those
defensive.
three categories.
Yeah.
What's that?
Or defensive.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so really evaluate, again, these aren't people. So first you said processes. So like, what are the processes and which ones can be fully automated, can be augmented, and then totally human. And then the second thing you did is you said, okay, of the humans that we have on the team rather than just saying, look, you're a Luddite, you're out. You said, look, let's nine box this thing and let's evaluate where people are at kind of in their AI transformational capability and capacity. And then you went a step further and said, okay, it's not just them. What do we need to do to then bring them up? Because there might be some people who have the capability or the capacity, but not necessarily the current skill.
That's right. That's right. And and what I love about nine boxing is it really does also look at that will. We talk about the will versus skill, and I'll take will all day long, right?
Totally.
And so
you can build on will for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the ways that we started to really tease out that will and get the excitement and see kind of where people's heads were at was I arranged to do, it's funny, I'm sure many of you guys have your offsites and your leadership offsites and you do them quarterly, you bring your leadership team together and you do and I was planning one of those and I was kind of going through the motions of, okay, and I said, God, this just doesn't feel right. I feel like AI is this moment where we need to do something different. And I wanted to do a very different offsite. And so instead of just doing what I've typically done in terms of bringing my leaders together, I did a much bigger investment where I brought about 40 folks together across my broader leadership team.
I love this.
And we did a real hackathon where we did some pre-work where we really identified some of those early jobs to be done, just so I could start to see what folks were thinking about in terms of automate or augment.
Yep.
And then we split into teams, we voted, and we literally went from concept to full prototypes. Steve Daly, our CEO, came in as a judge. And we did full business case presentations, and now many of them are, continuing to grow.
Moving into production. You're actually using them now.
Actually, one we just moved into production alongside our AIC. We have a center of excellence within Instructure, and so we partnered with our data team to now really make it production ready and scalable within the company. It's called Vera, and it's our voice of the customer agent. So anyway, very exciting. But yeah, and I think that did a couple things. I think it allowed people to feel heard, which I think is really important, to feel like they're part of the process, and to empower them to experiment and try in a safe way. Because look, to be honest with you, we're all beginners with AI, or at least I could say our team is. And so this was more about giving people the space to be vulnerable a bit in that area. Yeah.
So I actually heard from one of your leaders who was in the room, and they said they loved it because they hadn't really embraced, like they knew about it. They've chatted online with, ChatGPT or something like that, but they're like, it really broke this barrier of like, how do I go from chatting to like actually building something? It was just super foreign. And it felt overwhelming to this person. And so they're like, it was very meaningful to this person. So
I appreciate, it was. And for those of you interested, I actually did a LinkedIn post on it, and we actually videotaped the process, and there's like a video. So for anyone that's curious, you can go dig in and you'll find it. There's a video and whatnot.
We'll forward it. We'll actually put it in the notes. And
sure.
We'll share that, because I think this person who I spoke to said, and that, by the way, I'd say that's the third real key takeaway is like, create an environment, like you said, that's this very safe environment to be vulnerable and be like, I actually don't know what I'm doing, and give me a task and let me just fumble my way through with a team.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, Dave, and saying to everybody on this call, like, I was very nervous. This was a big expense. This was, you can imagine, right? 40 people, I'm flying in to do this, getting everybody enterprise cloud licenses. I was very nervous. I did not know how this was going to go. I had never done this before. And I was thinking, wow, this is either going to go well, this is not going to go well. But it did. It went great. So I was very happy, but nervous at the same time.
But I mean, again, really, honestly, really pretty amazing. So tell me, like, what as you think about kind of the tools, like the onboarding tools, the renewal tools, how do you avoid? This is something we spoke about when we were prepping a little bit. There's this temptation to turn into another big technology stack of like, we have a vendor that does this and a vendor. How do you think about partnering with technology again? Because I'm kind of walking through. You hit the process, then you hit the people. And then again, I'm just using the adage of, people, process, tech. From a technology standpoint, how are you thinking about partnerships? What tools are you thinking today? And again, you've kind of been vulnerable and said, look, this is where we're at in this journey. So as of today, how are you thinking about, building the tool set to support your team?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're lucky that I think as we work to now scale, I think we're now at a level of readiness given the prep work and some of the things we just talked about. We are at a place now where we're starting to scale some early pilots and move things forward more faster, quicker. I think when we look at partnerships and what we look for is folks that are going to be honest with us on, the good and the bad of what they've seen work and not work, and bring their lessons learned. So when we talk about third-party partners, recognizing that we, are not, we're still in early innings. We're very much, and this is core to our DNA, like we're growth mindset people. So we're always learning, and we want folks to come in and help us. So I think from a partnership, we want the good and the bad. Two, we want change management. I think change management is critical. So we would look for partners that bring an eye to change management.
Not just tech, but
not just tech,
process,
right?
That will help kind of guide in this journey across the
100%. That's really critical. And then I think too, a partner that can help us also begin with the end in mind, like getting really clear on what does success look like, aligning on that North Star and not getting stuck on vanity metrics. Good example is deflection in support, right? If you're listening to this and you're a support leader, you're probably nauseated with how much is out there. Because that's such an obvious place to start. And when you're doing if you're someone in my role as a chief customer officer, support is a natural area. That being said, there's a lot of pitfalls, and I think good partnerships, as you're looking at this from a support lens, is really looking beyond deflection into areas of, true quality resolution, because deflection can be a bit misleading in what you're looking at, right? Is what's underneath, is this truly deflection, or is there some other symptoms going on?
Right.
Someone that can really help us build a truly durable is probably the word that comes to mind. Durable
like
strategy.
Right?
Not just to hit a couple metrics and move on, right?
I love the way, like, again, you're thinking much more broadly. One thing I wanted, if we had a little bit time, I wanted to ask you, some of those questions where you were kind of evaluating where the human is the most, like you can't sacrifice that human touch. What are some of those areas you guys discovered? You're like, oh, we can't sacrifice on this. We need to make sure that humans are involved in this level of engagement.
100%. There's a lot, but I'll give you one example, and it's maybe related to the one we just talked about a moment ago with deflection. So for those of you listening that have, we're multi-product, complex, we have multiple constituents, think faculty, think students, administrators, multiple end users, multiple product portfolios. Escalation is a critical moment when you actually did not get your problem solved and you need to escalate and triage. Okay. That process of feeling like you've been heard, something has been escalated, and where it is in that process is incredibly important to stay human centered and close. So that's, and where is support going in that high value area? I believe that there's a lot that can be automated in support and will be, but I think one of the biggest value areas is in escalation, orchestration, and management. And that's how quickly you feel like your problem got escalated and resolved by a human when the agent could not. I think is really important.
I love that, because again, I think all of this vanity metrics, like I shared an example, I don't know if you caught it, sitting in the waiting room, but we have, there's a client we have that they have an 80% resolution rate. Or deflection rate. And I'm like, that's amazing. And then it turns out, well, it's doing nothing. Like it's deflecting.
Password reset.
That's all it was. Right. And so she's like, okay, well, in reality, when we've tried more complex things, we haven't figured out that balance between that human touch. And so I think that's something people should not forget. Like there's this temptation of like, oh, AI will take all of our problems away. And it doesn't. Like at the end of the day, like people want to buy from people. They want to work with people. Like it's these relationships that matter, but humans probably shouldn't be doing password resets. Like that's the stuff that AI is great at. But I love your example. Like when I'm frustrated and I want to escalate something, like I need to talk to a person who can kind of parse through the solution and maybe give me a little empathy.
100%.
So you also have this really weird challenge where your constituents are like super diverse. Like you have students, you have administrators, you have teachers, you have parents, and I'm sure I'm missing half of them. Like how do you think about, first, how do you solve that problem just without AI? And then what are you thinking about, like, where's AI? Because you reference this, like, as you think about all your different processes, you have so many, this is probably our last question, but like, how do you think about the different constituents? Because it feels like almost an impossible problem to solve.
It does honestly feel like an impossible problem to solve. So,
Right?
yes,
So,
it does.
an administrator and an elementary school student, how do you, like, they're so different.
Yeah, well, and full candle, with certain rules, we actually don't engage with younger students by design, but we do engage with some students with some of our products. But I think that for the most part, our constituents are primarily faculty and administrators. We don't really engage that much with parents and students as much as you probably think, but it is still a very diverse portfolio. And I think that we can't be everything to everyone, but I think we also have to meet them where they are. And so what I focus on is, it's like a bit of the 80-20 rule, which is I can't solve 100%, but what is the biggest area that I can make the biggest impact in, that's going to impact the most of that constituent. So, and so much of it, honestly, is more about the channel and meeting them where they are than anything else. Is feeling like they get the fast response. They feel like they were met where they are. And even if the content is maybe a little bit off and might need to be adjusted.
But that's tunable. That's the easy part.
Exactly. And so that's really where I focused on, is how do we ensure that with those different constituents, because you're right, you can't be like 100% personalized every time, but I think my order of priority is how do you meet them where they are? How do you make them feel heard, speed to response, and acknowledged? And then that follow-up. The content and some of the other things will sometimes have to be augmented. Sometimes it will feel a bit one size fits all in our messaging. And that's something that I think, to your point, AI is amazing for, and what we're looking to leverage it for.
I kind of love that. That's maybe the final point people can learn from you is like, meet people where they are. Like, it's actually, by the way, this was unprepped for people listening. This was a kind of a question I was curious when I was getting ready for our conversation, but like, how do you solve this problem of so many constituents? Because every company listening has a different way, different segment of customers, whether they're large enterprise, small, whether they're education or government or finance. The answer is actually surprisingly straightforward. It's like, meet them in the place.
Meet them where they are. Think about a K-12 teacher, right? Like, also AI, you have to realize that you probably have more that you can do than their ability to absorb it. I'll say that again. You probably have more that you want to do than their ability. So don't confuse your ability to do something with their ability to take that. And that's where the real truth comes in. Because if you go back to and my sister's a first grade teacher, so I use her as a reference all the time. Yeah. And she's raising 2 kids out in California, out in West Los Angeles. And so I know I use her as an example. Like, she's not doing AI at all. Like, there's things, she's trying to, she's dabbling, but there are some things that have to be human led. Like, she's doing a lot in the classroom, going out. We spend a lot of time going to K-12 districts. It's still very much field on the ground in the classroom. Not to say that that's not shifting, but you have to kind of match reality to a lot of the life circumstances of where educators are. That's just one example. First grade teacher.
But that's like, everyone has those in their customer base. Like, they have these, I want to reiterate it, because it's not deliver what you have like don't like it's very easy to say, well, here's what we're good at, and so we kind of force our customers into that environment. What you're really saying is like find the thing that is most comfortable and most native to your constituents, your buyers.
100%.
That's super genius. Okay, thank you. Like you're so generous with your time. Thank you.
This is a pleasure. I'm so excited for the day ahead and all the things you guys have planned. I was thrilled to be included and to be a part of it. So thank you. So much.
Thank you. Like it was so good. And again, I think you have insights like Gabe, like, right? Like there's insights you shared that I'm telling you, everybody's feeling, they're thinking. I think most people are in this exact same boat you're in. They're not really. There's a few.
This is so hard. For those of you listening, find me on LinkedIn, ping me. If you know me, but like this stuff is super hard. My heart's out to all of you. We're in this together. It's hard, for sure.
So LinkedIn, is that the best way to connect with
Absolutely,
you?
100%.
That's cool. Okay, and we'll make sure we always get lots of people asking, so we'll take what you shared today. We summarize it. We'll kind of share it out there and make kind of a little ebook out of it. And so we'll make sure like we share it with you, but really kind of we'll put it out. LinkedIn is mostly where we put it. And I'll probably do a newsletter on just what we talked about because I think it's super interesting. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. I'll have a great one. You got some great speakers coming up. So I look forward to
thank you, Rachel.
Thanks,
really
Rachel.
appreciate it. All righty. Well, Dave, I thought that was a fun one. As we said, really authentic to your point.
Really good, right?
Like the hackathon. That was cool to hear the hackathon in detail. And what was cool is they actually took something in there, they took it all the way to market, right? They didn't end there. You don't want it to end on the day. You want it to, I think.
Otherwise, there's value, but not the value that they were able to deliver, which is, again, super interesting because you have one of the largest companies really in the world. And she was very vulnerable saying, look, let's start at very basics. Let's 9-grid our team and let's do a hackathon. Like, and their CEO, like the whole company is behind this.
That was a really
pretty insightful stuff.
That was super cool. Cool. Again, so Rachel, appreciate you taking the time. So, all right, well, we got our next session. We'll bring Mr. Nate on the call. Nate, how are you, man?
Let's go.
Good to see you guys. How are we all doing?
Oh, man, a friend of a friend, man. Nate's just one of we love you, Nate. Appreciate you jumping on, man. This is going to be a fun
happy
one.
to be here.
So we're going to talk.
I'll just say, Nate is one of the most. You speak fairly regularly on the industry. You speak pretty regularly on what successes and failures you've had at Henry Schein, but you also are, one of the experts in the world around kind of large scale deployment in the CX space. So,
and I think, Dave, to that point, and then I'll let you guys take it. I mean, as we've kind of learned more and more, there isn't large scale AI projects all over. And so it's uncommon. By de facto, Nate is, I think, one of the leading because, there's just not a lot of people have been able to figure this out and do, I think, to your point, the scale that Nate's figured out. Anyways, Dave, I'm going to let you two dive into this a little bit more. I'll excuse myself and see you here in 30 minutes.
Perfect. All right, Nate, let's do this. So first, let's kind of start. For context, people watching here, again, there's 9,000 people in attendance today. So this is one of the largest virtual events we've been involved in. And what's really surprising is there's clearly an overwhelming need for learning and understanding and sharing. So I think your insights today are going to be super valuable. But before we start, give us context. So who are you and who is Henry Schein? Because I think some people know, but I think a lot of people may not.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Nate Christensen. I'm a director of strategy and operations at Henry Schein. And Henry Schein is actually the largest distributor of dental supplies and equipment in the world. But we're specifically Henry Schein One. That's one of their child companies that oversees all dental software. So if you go to the dentist, you file a claim, you schedule your appointment, you get a message from them, 90% chance they're using something that we have. And so
we have 70,000 dental practices using your technology.
Yes. So we're a global company across US, UK. Yes. If you use dental software, if you're a dentist, you know who we are.
Yeah.
And use us frequently for something.
That's pretty compelling. So again, your And again, for scale, so people understand, a Fortune 500 company, over 10,000 employees, roughly 10 billion in market cap, like public company. So you're giving us a perspective of the largest, as largest scale as anyone has, from what we can tell, in the world right now. But it started in very humble things, right? So you've been at this now for a year and a half, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the initial imperative? Why did you start? And then, what were you looking for? What was the problem you were hoping to solve?
Yeah, so I mean, with the scale that we're at, we pride ourselves on giving our customers this white glove, amazing hands-on customer experience. And that's where we've had dentists that have worked and partnered with us for 20, 30 years, and they have an expectation that if I call in, I'm going to get help quickly, effectively, and easy. The problem is we can't handle when there's an outage or there's an issue. So
Spikes.
there's a spike or an outage that happened that wasn't even related to us. It was another company, but it impacted everyone in the healthcare industry a couple of years ago. And when that happened, our call wait times went up to 20, 30 minutes, and that's for us unacceptable. And so we had that issue, as well as you can imagine sometimes in a support industry, there's a large level of turnover in those employees. And for us, where we have a huge amount of products and product lines, it's difficult to be able to always keep up on training these folks and getting
hiring
them.
and training is like, how many products? So one thing interesting about Henry Schein is you've grown both organically through organic growth, but you guys have also grown through acquisition. How many acquisitions and how many products are in this broader product line?
Yeah, so just under Henry Schein One, the software side, we probably have, I would say, anywhere from 60 to 70 products, many of which now we've consolidated in and fixed out. But initially, it was a strategy of growth by acquisition. And so now with that, you can imagine the complexity of supporting and managing all of these different products, that some of them do similar features, similar things. And so we definitely had a big issue. Look, we're annually looking at about 1.2 million support calls. And so to keep up with that, there was a charge from our executive team of, Nate, how can we fix this? How can we make our support a better experience so we aren't having hold times, and create something scalable so that we don't always have to rely on last minute scaling up a team before end of year for offices when they're generally calling in more. And so this is where we really explored multiple AI solutions and really pushed and adapted on the AI voice solution that we use today.
And what's interesting is what was your solution before? Like, how were you solving this before AI? And in fact, before you do that, share. Now, okay, let's go there. Again, there's so much to talk. This will be a meaty conversation. So how were you solving this problem before?
Yeah, so, I think the standard, and a lot of people push to this, is, hey, let's implement chat and let's move customers over into a chat line so that we can solve their answers more effectively.
And
even
people
if it's
love
a
that,
live
right?
person.
People love to be pushed from voice to chat. Oh, wait, no, they don't.
No, they don't. And especially dentists, right? You can imagine a lot of our dentists are an older population still, and they're used to calling. They want to pick up the phone and they want to talk to you on the phone.
I want to call. I just bought a TV from Best Buy. And to be honest with you, I couldn't get a live person. I had to do the whole thing through chat. Maybe I'm a Gen Xer. I'm freaking old, but I was so annoyed with it. I'm like, I want to give you a lot of money. I think it was like a $4,000 TV, and I could not get a person on the phone to sell it to me.
Yeah, and that's where, our whole business is focused on the human at the center and providing them that best experience. And so for us, there's some AI chat tools that people have in place, and we've done that. We've implemented a few of those, but we really pushed on, let's meet the customer where they're at. They're calling us. We have to find a voice that is empathetic, that can understand them, that's not going to be an Alexa or a Siri that you have to yell at it to, hey, play this song on Spotify, and it just never gets it right. It has to be a voice that can answer their problem more effectively than a human. And especially when we started doing this, it was a tricky thing to find, right? Because every company claims to have the new AI or voice AI tool. And look, we yelled, we swore at multiple different
I know, it's
tools.
crazy. Like you shared some of these experiences. Like you barraged these different voice AIs.
Yeah. And then, end of the day, we chose to go with an autonomous tool here, and it was a fantastic experience for us. And look, you have to start small, and I think the biggest aspect wasn't necessarily even implementing the technology, it's getting the business case correct. It's financially modeling what the cost will be so there's not runaway costs.
So that was really, I want to pause and let's double click on that, because what you guys did, and it was super impressive, because you're like, look, the pilot is not like, look, a pilot's a pilot, like almost who cares? It's if you are not planning for pilot failure, you are actually planning for pilot success. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is having strong data to measure each component of the pilot. And so most companies, they fail out the pilot because they say, oh, we're never going to improve from these pilot numbers, or we don't know our costs exactly. We don't know what it will look like. And what we did is we started with a sample size of taking 100 calls a day. And we said, okay, with these 100 calls, first, let's improve it. So we did A/B testing. So it's like, okay, our intro message with the voice AI is, hi, I'm Claire, and I know everything about Ascend, Dentrix Ascend on my fingertips.
Yeah.
And then we found, okay, that didn't actually resonate with customers. Let's try something else. And so every day,
Constant
it was
testing.
just a little science experiment to see how we'd improve. And then we actually were able to model the rate of our improvement and say, okay, based on this increased rate of improvement, we can now model out that we will continue improving at such and such rate. We know it will cost this much, and we know we're going live with 100 customers. Let's say it's now, 1,000, 2,000 calls a day. What does that look like? And then obviously you get into a cost saving standpoint, as well as even now we're looking at like revenue generating opportunities that come as a result.
There's an onion here that we're going to unpeel that I think is going to blow people's minds here. So like, here's the deal. You started with 100 calls a day. So for people listening, when you think about pilots, there's this temptation to try and solve the big problems. Don't start very, very small and solve. Like what you did is you just said, look, let's just see if we can solve like the initial call acceptance. Like, let's just see if people are comfortable with taking a call with a voice AI versus a human. And then you slowly, and you just A/B tested this thing virtually every day.
Yeah. Well, and I honestly, Dave, I still remember being on the phone with you the day we went live with 100, and you were like, whoa, I thought we were doing 10.
I know. I was like, oh, slow it down.
Under the cover, and it's like, no, we're going to do 100 to get a good sample size. And then we pretty rapidly scaled from there as we started to see the results. Now, again, our customers matter a lot to us, and the way we treat them, their experience. And so we have to make sure we refine that we don't, create negative opportunities. And I think that the biggest win of all of this is in the way that we were able to train our AI and get the voice right, as well as some of the incredible work of our support group in other areas. Our CSAT was actually higher than it's ever been in the history of our company this last couple months. So this has not just led to a poor customer experience, which is what most people would assume. Oh, you're deflecting it with AI. We've actually been able to, and a lot of it has to do with how you train the AI and how you brand it and market it. But we were able to improve our customer experience, drop that 20-minute wait time into a 0-minute wait time. And then we're resolving their issues in, a fifth the time, because imagine, 15,000 knowledge base articles. Any human supporting that, they can't memorize all of that and solve those issues fast.
Let's hit some of the ROI, and then let's talk more about your process. So this ROI, there's some really interesting things. You went from an average of potentially a 15 to 18-minute call, because again, it's a complex call. And so these human support reps, it took digging, it took escalation. They had to go to tier 2, get help, down to like 3 minutes, and in some cases less. So like, what's interesting is we were looking at the ROI on this, and initially you started like the team was, you had some internal support people for the more complex ones, but a lot of this was in a BPO that you'd partnered with. That you had several hundred support reps supporting these products, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first one thing you did, and I just want to highlight it because it was fairly ingenious, outsourcing to AI is much easier when you're already outsourcing to a BPO. Tell us a little bit about that decision. And you were really getting into the cost. How did you manage the cost, or how were you thinking about the cost of a BPO versus an AI? And then how did you model the ROI on this? It's a little bit of a conversation, but if we can simplify it for people just a bit.
I think the first thing just to note is we actually still definitely need to have those live support agents, and that this solution is like your tier 1 support.
Yeah.
And now we're able to take the more specialty type of difficult calls that require someone, using a Baumgar session going in live and to their computer. And so we're actually finding our real support calls are taking longer than they used to because they're more technically involved.
Because they actually need that human touch.
Yeah. Now, so we definitely still have our BPO and our agents, but yes, we were able to take and say, okay, here's, the rate of a domestic, here's the rates and the costs of each of our BPO agents. Here's how it, hashes out in comparison to an AI agent, the calls per hour that we believe that we can have them do, even the training costs and the difficulty for scaling up. And then, in many cases, what it becomes is there's a fairly high attrition rate within the BPOs. And so as you start seeing improvements within, your AI, you can allow that attrition to naturally occur.
So it's interesting. So rather than you guys didn't really fire anybody, it happened through natural attrition. The other thing that I thought from an economic standpoint that was really fascinating was the price per, a BPO, cost per hour or whatever how you're paying a BPO, or even your team, if you just have some full-time people, you were able to actually drop your cost, not just because the AI was cheaper, but the AI was more efficient. Tell us about how you guys thought about kind of the efficiencies gained from a time standpoint.
Yeah, I think that beyond just even the cost itself, we're looking at the customer benefit of like, we can't staff people to be on the phone at midnight, or, let's say we've got our Hawaiian practices, right? And it hits, 3:00 their time, but no one's necessarily available to support them. And so what this allows us to do is support our customer 24/7 on the weekends, on any day, right? So there's definitely that component and some of these benefits of like multilingual support, or even now we can train our AI agent not just to support the product, but we're also training it to sell our products now. And so this is really the next exciting phase.
Let's talk about that. So the first phase, this is super interesting. So your first phase, super small testing, and you did a lot of ROI analysis to make sure it works. Then you scaled, doing lots of like cautious A/B testing through the process, and you got it working really well. Like the results, your NPS was higher, your CSAT was higher, your cost was more effective for these segments of conversations. And then you're like, okay, what do we do next? So let's walk through kind of, and there was a core hypothesis that I think you posed at the very beginning of like, look, how hard is it for salespeople to reach out to customers and drive expansion and introduction of new products? Yet at the same time, you have thousands of customers calling in every day. So this was one of the interesting things where you thought, okay, Nate, you were like, how do we then go beyond just standard support?
That's right. So I think to your point, like there was a big cost saving as a result of implementing this, as you can imagine, taking thousands of calls a day, now having them resolved by an AI agent. And then even then, what we're able to save cost on is the AI agent will get the initial notes and the initial like troubleshooting, and then transfer that to the live agent. So if it even escalates, it's saving us time, it's saving us
Because
efficiency.
the agent knows.
Yeah,
they know.
so all of that is great. From a customer standpoint, that's the big win, right? It's a much better customer experience. But then where I get really excited is we've brand our voice AI not as a support tool, but we're branding our voice AI as a tool that can help support you, that can help be a customer success worker for you, that can help onboard and train you. So you start thinking of all these different areas, and if you can brand it right and land it right with your customers, you've got a powerful tool. So now imagine taking thousands of support calls that hit you. And what we've done is we're training the AI to, at the end of the call, so making sure that their support issue is resolved.
It's resolved.
It's like the first step is, hey, glad you had a great support experience. Like, I'm noticing here in your account that, you know, there's some opportunities here that would help you in your practice succeed more. Would you like to schedule a review with your account executive to like go through some of these different features, right? Now, I went pretty generic there, but we're working to make it very specific and tailored to each customer. And the amazing part is we actually have 2 different AI workers trained, but the customer actually doesn't know or get a change in voice or experience.
Okay,
And so
explain what that means.
yeah, so look, I could never train as great as anyone in our BPO or even our support, or even myself, like to be a professional support representative and a professional sales representative.
Right.
And they're different mentalities, right? Your support is going to be a trusting and a very precise type of personality. And your sales representative is going to be an engaging and adaptive type of person.
Yeah.
And so we've trained a trusting and precise support agent, but now we've also trained on a separate knowledge base an engaging and an adaptive sales AI agent. So what happens is when they get to the end of that support call, it transfers from that support trusting agent to that engaging adaptive sales agent. But the customer actually never knows because
It
the
sounds
voice
like
is
the same. It sounds like
Yeah.
the same person, same
Mhm.
voice, same name, but it can interchange the different personality and skill sets and knowledges like ad hoc.
Which is exactly what we're doing this opposite today. So when a customer calls into sales now, what we've done is we're working to take all of our several of our inbound sales calls that come to us. Now, 60% of those are actually people wanting to get to support. So today, what we do is if they want to talk to support and the salesperson answers, the sales AI agent, it says, oh yeah, I can help you with support. And it goes straight into that support AI
So this
agent.
is interesting. You actually, again, I want to make sure people understand this, and it's happening in every department. So this is a lesson that I think everybody should take away. A couple of these that you've laid out. So number one, test small, like pilot with a small, very small, test, set. Then increment and split test and scale very slowly across different products, different things like that. Lesson 2 is like take advantage of the opportunity to serve your customers, like you said, where they are. So someone may call into sales, and it turns out a lot of people are trying to get into support in maybe a backdoor way, or they just didn't know. And so they're calling into sales, but really wanted to get to support. So now you've made that happen. So you're doing both ways, people who go into support, and there's actually products and services that may help that person, and you're able to kind of transition it to sales. So tell us the success of this call into sales, but end up talking to support.
Yeah. So first off is, look, we have like a whole inbound sales SDR team today that is taking all these inbound calls, and 60% of their time actually ends up being routing this person to support and routing them all over. Where we have 60 products, like you've got to route it to 1,000 different numbers, right?
Yeah.
So that instantly basically saves them the majority of their time, and now they're able to do outbound SDR work. So now we're thinking, okay, that increases revenue, right? And then the ideal is you have a customer call in, hey, they're interested in the product, let's say want to buy something. Now we can,
That's
it
cool.
gives me the
Nice
bubbles.
feature.
We can then actually do a back deep research on that customer in Spot and say, okay, here's everything about this customer that we want to know.
Because the AI is using tools to go into Salesforce.com and all of your different internal systems.
And then let's pull out and get all the information on that customer, fill out the sheet, input it into Salesforce, schedule with our account executive now, because we're not quite at the point that we're allowing it to do the sale, but to schedule and prep and get all the information.
And you shared this, like you found that a lot of people want to speak to a human in this case.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, these are big ticket purchases, but I would much rather talk to, and this is where it's really important, is getting your customers adjusted to that voice and the AI. And I think something we didn't hit is at first when we started, the customer sounded more robotic than the AI did.
Okay, explain that.
Yeah, because they weren't accustomed to talking to an AI agent. And the AI agent was very different than your Siri or your Alexa that doesn't ever seem to understand you. And so they would use very short phrases like, hey, I'm Claire, how can I help you today? Would be the AI saying it. And I would say, help forms. And I mean, imagine troubleshooting like these 2-word, help me fix a send, right? Like it's so ambiguous. And so we've
almost
learned
like
how
an
to kind
IVR.
of,
Like
we had to learn how to pry out of our customers and train them, and also change the voice so that, like, what it does is it says, hey, Dr. So-and-so, how are you doing? Like, we notice you're from this practice. Like, it has context on them and it's smarter initially. And so we found ways to gain trust with our customers to engage with it. And now they're very happy because, look, when you're scheduling, let's say with account executives on territories, like you've got to go and look through and understand their calendar. And it takes, 10, 15 minutes to go through both people's calendars. And all it does is, hey, tell me what times work for you. It's like, great. Does this time work? I've got this opening with this account executive. Sweet. You're scheduled. So there's a lot of applications for this too, beyond sales and even support. It goes into training and onboarding and customer success.
Tell me
as
what.
well.
So what? Right now you have 4 separate deployments that are like, you have the inbound support deployment, and it went from 100 calls to my understanding is as many as 3,000 and 4,000 calls in a given day. So that was one, and then you're also routing to sales. So the inbound sales is another one that again, in that case, you're kind of routing. So they're kind of routing to each other. You've also added one of your product segments, a large scale inbound chat, is my understanding. Tell us about that.
Yeah,
so early, right? It's very early.
Very early, but before even there, just thinking about this is, imagine, you take 3,000-4,000 support calls, and even 1% or 0.5% of that converts into a sale that you would not otherwise have.
That's impactful.
It's impactful. It's very significant, right? And we're not being overly aggressive, but I'd imagine, depending on your customer, you could increase that level of aggressiveness in the call, right? And even see better results. So for chat, there's actually 2 scenarios. We've got one of our subsidiary businesses who's utilizing chat for a business to consumer standpoint, who's seen some really good successes. And then we're implementing it today in our product for dentrixascend.com. So if you just go into the product and you want to learn more about it, it will essentially it will be able to soon run you through a full sales workflow of like, hey, tell me more about Dentrix Ascend. What can it do for my practice? It's going to answer all those initial sales questions and then be able to schedule you with that account executive. So rather than your typical like fill out a survey to get more information, this thing's going to give them immediately their information that high level they want. Yeah, I mean, it's your basic SDR type of work. And then we're still going to be routing it over to that account executive. Now, look, like if we were selling a smaller ticket, less commitment type of item, you could easily implement something like e-commerce into this and sell the heck out of it on its own.
Through that interface. So, okay, you've been 1.5 years into this exercise. You've deployed in 4 separate divisions. And again, it's tons of lessons learned. If you were to, what's your number one thing you would advise people to think about as they're deploying these things?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to, it's not the technology that's going to be your hardest issue. I think the two most difficult things is one, understanding your customer. Our customer responds to something very different than, let's say, someone in the gaming industry or whatever else, right? And so it's really important to do those. When I mentioned like we do a test and change the intro message, and like it's just iteration daily based on
Yeah.
data. So like anyone that says you can just turn it on and call it good, like there's work involved in
Yeah.
doing this. And
There's no
what
turn
I'd
it on
say,
and it works.
yeah, I mean, most companies are terrible at onboarding new employees. And the reality
Same
is
thing.
an AI agent is a new employee. And if you aren't clear and dictate in word everything for it to do, you are going to have hallucinations, not because the tech stinks, but because you're not telling it the right expectations.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important, is one, understanding your customer, the expectations, how to train it. The second thing is just internally being able to find the right champions and being able to handle the change management. Because look, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of stigma, and you need like support is the biggest champion to getting this to happen. But there are also many that are afraid for themselves as a result of something like this. And so it's, you know, figuring out like, how do we organizationally change and adapt and help people to adopt this technology that honestly now elevates all of their careers to a whole new level.
Everybody gets
right?
promoted because
Yeah.
of this. Right? They're not teaching, you know, explaining how to log in. Now they either get promoted in one area or another. So that's amazing. Okay, Nate, again, I think we're out of time, but one of the leaders in the industry at deploying, you know, at large scale across multiple divisions, how do people reach out to you? Because I know people are going to have questions. They're going to want to learn more. Like, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, look, we need to fix this issue because look, the other day, and I hope someone from like Delta or any of these hotel companies is on
my
this,
gosh.
because
Please, it's so bad.
I mean, I was spending hours wasted time trying to get the right help and support, and it's like, gosh, we just need to help people improve the customer experience just for myself. So please do reach out so we can improve it for the world.
To make our lives a little easier.
Yeah, so reach out to me. You can find me here on LinkedIn's probably the easiest. You guys just can find me at Nate Christensen on LinkedIn. Yeah, and I'm happy to help, happy to support with any questions you guys have.
Super fun. Nate, appreciate it, my man. All right, well, we'll let you go. Nate, thanks again for your time.
Thanks.
Dave, you know, fascinating. To your point, I mean, multiple channels, you know, hundreds of agents, that scale. And the nice thing is, you know, not 1,000 different Frankenstein. You know, sometimes you're hearing, I've got this tech, that tech, and I'm stitching together 20 AI companies to try to. No, we got one AI vendor across fascinating to see that
And
scale. And I
one
think
thing you learned that
Nate's in there.
we didn't have time, but once you build one, you know, really successful agent, you have access to the knowledge, you have access to the tools, you have access to the people and the endorsements and the sponsorship and the metrics. And so it becomes much easier to build on what you have. Again, whether it doesn't matter what, if you're using Agentforce or whatever, don't try and go too broad too fast. Build one, get successful, and then build on it versus a whole Frankenstack of 20 different AI agents.
Yeah, fascinating, man. All right, well, Dave,
Cool. Thanks.
We're gonna kick you off this time.
It's about time.
Let you take a little break. So thanks for jumping on, my man. And I'm gonna bring now Hannah to the stage. Hannah, thanks for joining. How are you?
Hello.
Yep,
Can
you're coming
you hear
in.
me?
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear. Thanks for jumping on.
I unfortunately do not hear you. Your audio went off just like a second ago.
Oh shoot!
So
How about
I'm
that?
not sure why that is.
Test. 1, 2, 3.
Should I jump in and out again? Because I cannot hear you at all.
Yes, let's have you try to jump in and out one more time. You know, sometimes you get these sound quality issues and you've just got to go with it. But Hannah, hopefully we can get that working. Guys, you're going to love this one. She has a fascinating session about really building an AI operating model around customer service, customer support over to Arrive. And I think she's got amazing stuff there. So let's see if we can ultimately pull her in. And let's try this one more time. How's that, Hannah? A little better?
Yeah, yes. Now I hear you. For some
There we
reason,
go. That was
yeah,
weird, right? It was there and then it left. But
that was really weird. Yes.
that's just the technology we deal with sometimes. So, oh
Yeah,
my goodness. Well,
exactly.
you are joining us though from a little ways away, right? Where are you at the moment?
Well, right now I am in Scotland, but originally I would be in Madrid, so I escaped the heat from the south.
Got it. Well, I know it's a little bit later there than it is over here in the US. So thanks for joining us this late afternoon / evening. Really excited for this session. And again, thank you for taking the time. This event, we garnered, I don't know if you'd heard, we garnered over 9,000 people, obviously tuning in, registering for the event, all sorts of, industries, sectors, et cetera. I just think there's so much need to really understand the changing environment and how people are winning and losing and what they're learning. So again, thanks for the time. I know we sent out a bunch of information about you, but it'd be great if you wouldn't mind just tell us a little bit about yourself and Arrive, what you guys are kind of doing over there.
Yeah, so I'm Hannah. I've been working for Arrive for 6.5 years, or
Which
as
is,
some of you-
we'll get into it, but that was when they were really small. She's seen the explosion of growth. Sorry.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was gonna say, I mean, Arrive is actually as a brand is only being is a year and a half or so. Before that, it used to be several different companies. So Easy Park is the company I originally joined. So
Yes.
those from Europe might know Easy Park as a
Yep.
mobile parking app, and those of you in the US, you Park Mobile might be
Yep.
familiar.
Yep.
So Arrive is a new name for the company. So yes, when I joined 6.5 years ago, I think we were about 400 people, 400 or 500 people, and now
Which
we
still
are well
isn't tiny.
over.
Which isn't
No,
tiny.
no,
but
it isn't tiny, but now we're well over 4,000. So
I
we've
can't believe-
grown quite a bit. Yeah, that's insane growth. For
Every
sure.
time you say that, I'm just like, how? I mean, I don't even know. I need to do the math for you mathematicians out there. I mean, that is a lot of people, like every month on average. I mean, I assume like every process breaks, every system breaks, you're just expanding. And from your prerogative, how did your journey during that 4 to 4,000 go? Your team size, etc.
Yeah, so that also, I mean, exploded. I mean, it's been super exciting for me. I started as the customer care manager for Easy Park in Spain, covering the Spain and Portugal market.
Yep.
There was virtually no office in Madrid, so I scouted the first office as well, and so I did a bit of real estate business there as well. And
So
then
you
yeah.
have a nighttime job as a real estate agent.
Yeah, exactly.
Office
If you need an office in Madrid, call me. I'll find one for you. No, so we've actually moved offices already twice as well in Madrid. And now we're probably going to move third time. So as we grow, but yeah. So then I started with that, and then I moved into the regional director for South and Central Europe. And took on that role, and then a few years on, I took over as the head of global customer care for it was then Easy Park and then Arrive as well.
Yeah, and from a team perspective now, how does that look? What kind of structure does that look like for you as you kind of oversee this global customer care?
Yeah, so we have regional managers or directors who sort of Nordics and South and sort of UK, US, and then we also have India, a team in India as well, and then we have a management layer also below that. So in the individual countries, because we do have offices in a big chunk of the European countries as well as in the US and the UK. So yeah, we have the more operational management in the local countries.
Yeah, that's a lot. So I mean, it's fully global now. You're kind of operating,
fully
all
global.
That means you get to work 24/7, doesn't it? That's awesome.
That's what my contract says, apparently.
Yeah, that's right. That was the one thing you didn't want to hear. But
the small text I didn't read. Yeah.
yes. It's always the fine print. You got to watch it. Well, lesson learned. Watch the fine print. No. And then I want to dive into kind of that explosive growth and how you've managed that customer as you've moved from a smaller location, obviously, to now this global footprint with hundreds of agents around the world. But I'm curious, before, Arrive and starting as the customer care manager, how did you get into this stuff? How did you get into customer care originally? Was it a friend? Was it just a random, job?
No.
What was the start?
It was actually a passion of mine. I have to say, I mean, you know, those who work in customer care might have heard, people say that you end up in customer care. You don't apply for customer care.
Mm,
It's not that job that you want to get. People have other ideas of where they want to go to. But I always actually really thought that customer care would be an environment that I would really thrive in.
yeah.
So I studied international business, and then I went to work for a massive 120,000 plus company,
Oh, wow.
shipping company, and I did start in also in customer care. Really
Mm,
enjoyed it. Problem solving. That's what I like to do. Finding
yeah.
solutions for people.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Nothing
definitely
better than
customer.
an angry customer calling me, and then if I can make them happy again, that's a win for everybody, I guess.
Yep.
And then I stepped out to do some other stuff as well. I stayed within the same company, but I worked with strategy, budget, trade management. I also did some sales. And then
On the
I
go.
was, yeah, I did a bit of everything. I think I changed roles every 1.5 years, more or less,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And then I was given an opportunity to lead a local customer care function
Mm,
in Italy. Now, Italy, first of all, is a country where I also grew up in. So it was customer care, Italy, leading people. I said, I'll take it.
you
It
love,
took me one day to decide, and then I moved back to Italy. So that's how I ended
and you
up
never
back in
looked
customer
back
care.
after that. Never looked back.
No,
All right.
no,
Well, it's
never
been,
did. No.
and it sounds like from the passion when we spoke before, feels like it was the right decision. You've been loving what you're doing, and congrats on
Yeah,
all the success. So,
thank you.
one other random question, because we just got hit by it was like 6 people wrote me and said, Gabe, we noticed that Hannah calls it like head of customer care versus customer service, versus customer experience. I'm just curious, what's your take on the function? Is it customer care? Is it customer service? Is there a difference? What's kind of your take on the titles of this space at the moment? I know that's super random, but I wanted to make sure I got a couple of these people the question answered.
No, I think it's an interesting question. So I would say it was always called customer care at Easy Park because we care
Mm,
about the customers. So the word came from that. So not
I
customers,
love it.
servicing people, not supporting. We're actually caring about our
Hmm,
customers. What
I
then
like it.
also helps is we have within Arrive. So when Arrive was created, we Easy Park acquired a company called Flowbird, which
Mm.
does hardware, and hardware has also a customer service function. So that was easy then to differentiate between the two. So the hardware support
I
and the
see.
software support. So we kept the customer care and the customer service separated. Um, but could it be called customer experience? That I think is a good one because I think with everything that is going on, all the change and all the exciting new innovations and tools and everything, channels and that we can help customers out with. I think probably customer experience is
Could be,
is you know
could be.
it
It's
could
good
be
umbrella one.
could
Yeah. I love
yes
your care comment though. I was not expecting that.
Mm.
That you ultimately care about the customer. So we felt like that was the natural place to start. That's a great answer. I hope you guys appreciate me asking that. Okay. Well, let's get back to brass tacks and talk about some of your journey. So one of the things that you and I chatted a little bit about was as you guys experienced that explosive growth of 4 to 4,000, I'm curious, what was the moment you realized, just hiring more people almost wasn't going to be like possible, or it wasn't going to solve the problem anymore because it just would be almost quote unquote impossible?
Yeah, I mean, as we were growing, I mean, the company is also growing exponentially in transactions and revenue, and you sit there and you start, project, you start doing your budget for the next years, and you start doing the maths, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to need 3 times more people than what I have right now
And there's
to
just
be able,
there's
and
something
it's
standing in front of a board and saying, I'm going to need
yeah.
3x the people that are like, that might not fall
Yeah,
very well.
that was not gonna fly, no. So then it became okay, where do you put 3 times more people? Like
Mm,
you're not going to be able to do that. So then it was then it was just a question of what do we do instead.
yeah.
So it was not a question of getting rid of people as such. It was like, how do we build up on the growth? How do
How do we
we
do this
yeah, how
realistically?
do we cater for the realistic growth? We need to be flexible, we need to be agile, and volumes come and go as well. You can't suddenly hire 100 people for Monday and then not have them on a Thursday. So you need to be able to have something that's a bit more agile and scalable. both directions. So I think that's probably where
Yeah,
AI
that
then
I'm glad you
kicked in a
mentioned that.
bit.
Glad you mentioned that kind of unpredictable volume. I mean, so many,
Mm.
in different spaces, you get holidays, Black Fridays, different things where, and that is one of the things where it's so hard to staff up, staff down very quickly. So obviously you recognize a problem, you realize, humans, you look to technology. AI was you guys are, I think you guys were pretty early in this journey. So I think you were pretty early in the AI journey, but there was a couple partners you opted to go with and you said, hey, this looks like a scalable solution that we can maybe implement. I'd love to hear about that journey a little bit. You obviously recognized the problem. You saw a potential solution in AI. How did you start to piece it together from there?
Mm. Yeah, so and this is something else that is also like the working with product teams. So together with the product team, because they also, I mean, that's what they do. They figure out the product to improve the system and all
Sure.
that. So we work together with them and to go and find what is out there, what
Mhm.
tools are there, what companies are there, and we started. I'd say well over 2 years ago looking, and that was before agentic AI.
I
So
was gonna
those of
say, like,
you,
when I say early, I mean that was because GPT. I mean that really only came out probably about 2 years ago. So you,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we were there kind of like, what do we like, what's out there and what can we use and what makes sense and what does it entail? What does it mean? Like, is it a
Mhm.
package you plug it in and it, opens up on your computer, or does it require for me to have 50,
Operational people to run it or
operate,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
or coders or programmers to run it, right? So we started with with a company, not naming names, but with a smaller company a company that was, it was pre-agentic AI. So
Yes.
it was when you started doing chatbot where you had to
More like more workflow
yeah,
based, right?
the tree exactly. That
Yeah.
you had to
Oh,
code every sentence, and if if you misspelled something or did it wrong, the answer would also be wrong. So it was a very tedious process. We did it.
you did it.
The quality was so and so. So we did have something, but it wasn't really that scalable. And then
Yeah.
what happened is that because AI moves in, I would say cycles of 3 months. So whatever is new today, in 3 months it will be obsolete again. So yeah,
I do
it
think
was
that's about true. Yeah.
it was quite tough. So it was especially, and maybe it's changing a bit now because now I'm seeing a lot of new players out in the market, and it's quite competitive,
Yeah.
and everybody seems to be able to offer some kind of AI service,
Yep.
AI tool package,
Yep.
whatnot. But at that point, it wasn't as
Oh my
as
goodness.
available out in the
Yeah.
market. So, and people, and perhaps even some companies didn't realize the relevance of it, so they maybe didn't invest as much time in it. So
Yep.
we
Yep.
went from having a non-agentic AI to finding a company that
Mhm.
was doing agentic AI.
Yep.
Now the other one, a couple months later, was also on it, but that was too late because then we already decided to move ahead
Oh,
with something
you'd
else.
switch. So they did try to go from kind of that workflow, that more complicated to the
Yeah.
agentic, but at that point you kind of made the switch. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yep.
then they were no longer in the game for us because we already decided to change.
Sure.
And now
Sure.
we've been there for the last good year or so, and
Is that
it's
about how long
it's
that journey's been? It's been about a year and a half. So it's probably a 2-year journey now, but you've
yeah,
been deep in
yeah,
agentic more like a little over a year, it sounds like. Is that
yeah,
yeah,
about a year, yes, and
okay.
yeah, a little over a year. And I think the actual, when you find the right partner and who actually has a good product, the implementation, or you obviously this is for anybody who's trying to figure out whether to do it or not, you ask them and they will offer by default a sort of, they will show you what they can do over
Mhm.
a period of time,
Mhm.
and you do that. But once they start rolling out, it's actually a very fast process. So the whole decision making and the figuring out who you want to use and how to do it and what you want to, what you want to offer, but the actual implementation and sort of being able to roll out a tool, that
Yeah.
is not so long in itself. That can be,
Huh.
that's a question of a couple of months or so. So it's not a, you don't need to work on it for a year.
And you,
um
again, you were early in that decision, but any quick advice as people look for AI partners? I mean, you kind of mentioned, you were able to see some proof, but any quick thoughts on that? Again, I know it was now a long time ago, but quick thoughts on that?
no, No, I would say there's two things that sort of stood out for me. One is don't commit yourself for too long
I love that one. I love that.
because yeah,
You just
like I
don't
said,
know.
it's
You
three
just
month
don't know what you don't
cycles.
know.
You don't know, and honestly, I don't know where pricing is going to go a year from now because
Oh,
it's becoming such a competitive, or let's say there's so many out there in the market that they're going to have to start competing with something. So if the price of today, I don't know if it will be the same 6 months down the line or 2 years down the line.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
wouldn't necessarily tie yourself down necessarily for a 3-year contract unless you find a partner that you have such a good relationship and you know that they are so advanced that they will make sure that they will commit to kind of building that together with you, because that can also work. But so I would be a little bit wary
I like
on
that.
when you're trialing in terms of how long you're going to commit to somebody.
Yep. Yep.
And the other one is make sure that you partner up with a company that is willing to invest people's time in you, where they will actually that they have a dedicated team to help you.
Mhm, mhm.
Because and here comes somebody who comes from customer care who's doing all things AI. When something really breaks down and you need help, you really do want
You really do want
somebody
me
to be
to
there to
be
help you out. So
But it's true, right?
that,
It's not
yeah.
it's not just a flip of a switch. It's like this. I assume we'll get into a little bit, but there was also some work to get this going. It isn't just a magic button, and so
Oh
having a
no.
team that
Mm.
can kind of support or care about that, I'm sure makes a difference. I love that. I appreciate that. As I think a lot of people, to your point, there are more vendors. There's more talk. Again, how many vendors can walk walk the walk and talk, but at the same time, just being able to decipher some of those things that matter. So anyway, so you were able to choose, and then you mentioned the deployment wasn't crazy, at least to get a. Now, did you start small? Did you
Yeah.
take one channel? How did you think about kind of, we can't just go all over the place. We got to go after a certain area. How did you decide that?
Yeah, so we decided we have, I guess we call them markets, but countries, and then because every country has different rules and regulations and contractual agreements and all that. But we would say we took a small market and a larger market. We wanted to stress test the larger market and the smaller market just to tweak around a little bit. And then we took a couple of them and tested them to see, and we didn't roll out 100%. So we would do a bit. We'd trial a couple of questions, or or a certain opening hours, or just availability, maybe tomorrow morning for a couple of hours, see how it works, and kind of stress test that. But honestly, we had very good success from the beginning. So
And that was
we,
mostly in the chat interface. That's a chat
yeah,
interface? Is that
that
right?
was,
Yeah.
yes, we started with the chat bot, yes.
Got it. And that was a low hanging fruit. Again, it sounds very calculated as far as, let's just see if we can test a couple questions, a couple use cases, and those initial kind of instances, thumbs up, green light. We kind of went from like a crawl phase to, how did you then think about the walk phase? The walk, it was like, okay, where those worked. Now, where do we go from here? We did a small market and stress tested in a large market.
Oh, so we did a phased out rollout for all the markets. So we didn't do all in one go. We
Yep.
didn't want to break the system. We wanted to be able to pull back if we needed to. But we had a well planned out,
Thought out
this
phase
market.
kind of approach. Good. That
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes
Country per
sense.
country per country. Yeah.
Did you
Over the
run
period of-
into, what a lot of people hit us up on as we were prepping for this event was the data question, like, oh, my data's not good enough. I don't know if we can start this. How did you feel like your data was in a good enough place for AI to work effectively? Was there a lot of build there? Did you already have a strong knowledge of it? What was your experience on the data? And then I'd be curious on the systems as well. Did you feel like you had to get your ticketing system connected and your billing system? Or those are two things where I know people have wrote in and been, we're just not ready for AI. Our systems are so disconnected. Our data's a mess, Gabe. We can't start anything.
Yeah, so that's also one of the things that we did. We also changed our platform, so our phone and email system that we had, to one that was prepared to take on, like, that you could connect to other systems. So you can obviously always build your own, but then if you build your own, then you're quite limited to what you built it
Yep.
towards. So we have use a big globally known company for our basic platform that then allows to connect to all different kinds of other vendors. So we have a different company for our AI chatbots, and then we have a different company for our email system, and they work quite well together.
Do they?
S-
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Uh-huh.
And it's not a complex thing. They're built to
kind of
work like-
interact.
to-
What,
yeah,
what
so
about
it's-
phone? I know you guys do some phone. How does phone kind of fit in that? So you have email, chat, and phone kind of working a little bit together
Yeah,
now?
so we have phone as well. We haven't so
Gone
that
too
one
far.
is basically where we've actually rolled out voice bots in majority of the countries right
Okay.
now. We did a sort of 24/7 trial for voice bot.
Mhm.
And testing it out to see the limitations for the voice bot right now is well, you would notice if you call that it doesn't have access to your account.
To your
So
customer
if you
record.
call to say like,
Mm.
can you do this for me in the system, it won't be
No,
able to do
It's
that.
got to be
no.
more basic questions. That is where you
Yes,
kept it at.
exactly, basic questions.
Can it go
But-
further? Do you think it can go further? It's just a matter of time, or you're like, honestly, that's a limitation I'm trying to figure out right now.
I think it can go quite far. I
Okay.
think it can. So you can, for example, you can chat with us or chat with the chatbots, and it can stop a parking for you. So, so it can do that. So yes, you can do a lot more. You also, of course, have to be wary of any kind of GDPR restrictions, customer data
Of
protection.
course.
So all of that, just to make sure that there's no. What are you allowed to access? So, for example, in
Yeah,
Europe,
that's right. Yeah.
credit card details, no go. Like if somebody ever calls you and says, "Oh, my credit number is," you have to yell at them and tell them to stop. Like, do not stop speaking.
Don't bring that up. I'll have to hang up on you.
Yeah, so this is for anybody. If anybody from Europe asks you for your credit card details, do not under any circumstance do that. That's illegal. So there might be some restrictions like that that you would have to look into a little bit more. But definitely, I think AI can go far.
Pretty effective in that. So what are then the use cases that has been then successful right now? I mean, it sounds like it, obviously we talked a little bit about the channel, but it's handling a lot of the quote unquote tier 1 type stuff, and you're still having escalations in humans do quote unquote tier 2, or how are you finding the human and AI concept when it comes to particular problems? Is it the password reset? Is it the, account inquiries? What's kind of going here versus there?
So it also, funnily enough, changes depending on the country that you're in.
Does it?
It's in country, and I guess the age groups of users and how used to AI people are. I mean, there are people who don't want to
So
speak
true.
to people, who just like, if I can do everything through the app, I'm happy as long as I don't have to speak to people. And there are people who just like, the first thing to do is just want to call you over the phone. So so it changes a bit from country to country. But overall, I think the chatbot has a deflection rate of 85 to 95%.
Wow.
So it is very, very good. Then what remains is can you, well, not the credit card thing because we can't do that one, but can you, for example, go and start a parking for me or create something in my account? Then that we won't be able to do. Or I want to close down my account, can you close it for me? The app is not able to do that yet. So those would be escalated to level 1
Those would
live
be
chats.
Got it.
And some people, they hear a voice, or they hear or see that it's an agent, and
AI.
they're like, nah, and then they will be like, I want to speak to human. So we've
Sure.
made a threshold to escalate the contact to a human relatively low, so that we don't annoy customers too much. So if they really, really insist on talking to an agent, they can do that quite quickly. So some demographics might ask for it faster, and some people will be happy to just chat with.
Fascinating.
AI.
Oh my goodness, you guys are really in the depth here. This is super fun. Couple more questions before I let you go. More on the internal side of the house. Many leaders worry employees will resist AI. I'm curious what actually happened inside your organization. How did you, learn about leading people through this transition? Like, what are some of the things that you were able to do that? It sounds like it's often a sensitive issue, right?
Yeah, it is. I would look at AI from two perspectives: internal and external. So what I mean by that is external AI is a chatbot towards the customer, or the voice bot towards the
Yep.
customer. that is AI that, gets rid of all the boring tasks, the having to answer the same repetitive question over and over again on the phone,
Right.
and kind of
Right.
frees up time for people to do other things, right?
Hmm.
That is also the part where you could argue, yes, but that gives that, results in less jobs for people,
Right.
because
Right.
AI is going to take over. But at the same time, if we're talking about a growth company, I'm talking about absorbing the growth, the volumes that come through growth, rather than, letting go everybody and then only having AI, right?
Sure.
And then you have the internal part of AI, which is, could be Gemini, could be Claude, could be ChatGPT, could be your internal Slack search bot.
Hmm.
And so the way it needs to be approached is that externally we are offering customers alternative options to reach
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
We're not removing necessarily a channel. We're giving you the option to also call us after midnight. We're also giving you the option to chat from your app, or
Yep.
you can do self-service online, or you can send us an email, and then depending on the market and requirements, or you can give us a call and you'll get
I
through to
love
an
that.
agent as well.
I love
So it's
that.
like added channels for the customer. So we see it as a added
Additive.
value,
Yeah.
added, yes.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
in
Totally.
turn, but then internally, of course, you have to kind of pacify people so that they don't completely panic that everything, this means that their jobs become completely obsolete. I think it's more a question of, let's use the AI tools that we have internally so that you don't have to spend 4 hours creating a fancy PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
You still have to do the thinking, and you have to, do the analysis and all of that. But then let AI do that, 4 hour presentation for you.
Yeah.
And then you can focus on something more interesting. So it actually frees up time for you to focus on what is relevant. And I think the customer care function as well is going from a reactive customers calling us, how do we solve it, to more a
Totally.
process driven,
Yeah.
improvements driven. We've created sub teams within the customer care function that are now AI support teams.
Fascinating.
So I think it's actually opening up for new opportunities for people within customer care to
Yeah.
start,
Like there's new
dabbling
tasks, there's
with
new
new
skills,
tasks,
there's
new
new
roles,
jobs.
new jobs. Yes, so I think that's
And I
going to
think that's
change.
part of the communication. We've got to find the best of both worlds here. That's fascinating. You've started to try to communicate that and obviously even find some of those areas. Oh my goodness. Well, Hannah, dang it. I wanted to ask like 10 more questions. We don't have time for that. So we're going to have to wrap up here, but thanks for sharing your journey. So many fun
Thank you. It's
learnings,
been a
the
pleasure.
multi-channel. Boy, sounds like you guys are pretty far down the path. So congratulations on all the success. If someone wanted to reach out or touch base, learn a little bit more, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn as well. I check it quite regularly. So Hannah Fredrickson, you can find me under Arrive as well, and reach
Love
out
it.
to me
Love
with a
it.
message, and I'm happy to let you know more about our journey.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, Hannah, really appreciate that. It's fun to have you on board and talk through some of the stuff today. So we'll let you jump and we'll move to the next section of the event. Thanks, Hannah. All right. Well, we are not quite done. We're going to jump into the next section of the event. Oh, man, that was a fun one with Hannah there talking about that Arrive. Oh, man, they're doing some cool stuff. We'll have to follow up with her on that. But we are jumping into the awards. And again, you guys, this was a thought to recognize some people. There's so much going on. We're all trying as hard as we can. And there are voices out there who are pushing boundaries, helping us learn. And we wanted to take a minute and thank them for their time and effort because it matters. People are following you. People are looking up to you. And sometimes we don't get recognized enough. And so what I wanted to do first was bring on, a handful of some of our winners. And I wanted to see if we could go into that now. Oops. We're doing this one first. Sorry. So I'm going to bring a couple of them on here real quick. Give me just a second. We're going to bring them on stage here. Oh my goodness. All right. Guys, thanks for jumping on. I know this is a little last minute. I know we were talking, Nandish, we were talking with a couple of you. We're like, would you guys be willing to jump on and just so we could recognize you and talk to you just a little bit? So first and foremost, again, thank you for what you do. The feedback, we had over 13,000 people jump in. comments about you guys, some of the stuff you're saying, some of the stuff you're doing. And so I know we're not giving you $1 million prize or something like that, but recognition matters. And so first and foremost, thank you for taking the time to share your experience with others, share your guidance with others, share your thoughts with others, because it is being recognized in the market. And so what I wanted to do real quick is just ask just a couple quick questions. And again, thank you for your time. So I'm curious, when it comes to the CX space, you guys are in the thick of it. You're either dealing with it, you're coaching people with it. What advice are you giving, or would you give to some of those leaders who are starting their journey afresh and trying to navigate what feels like craziness out there? And I just want to go through real quick and get some of your thoughts on that. Kate, do you mind starting? Kind of what's your quick advice for these new leaders trying to navigate these weird times?
Yeah, it's definitely the Wild West right now with AI, but I would say the biggest advice is don't start with the tool, because they're all going to wow you and look amazing.
Yeah.
Start with the problem, where the friction is, where it's actually going to make a difference, and then look at the tools that will support that.
Yeah, because we have so many of us, we get that squirrel motion where it's like, ooh, you want a new tool that'll save us. But systems are often not those kind of, saviors, if you will. And so starting with the problem, I love that, Kate. Bryce, thanks for joining. We're just running through. We'll hit you in just a second here, but not hit you, but we'll get you. It's a digital hit there, Bryce. Jim, what about you? Again, man, love the interaction we had. What advice would you give to some of these up and coming leaders here?
So my biggest advice is simple. I've always had a passion to push boundaries.
Yeah.
Challenge the status quo. Just because you've always done it this way doesn't mean it's right. And I like to help others succeed. But I will tell you this, none of that happens in isolation. Innovation only becomes meaningful when talented people turn ideas into results. That's what I would give my biggest advice to anybody.
I love it. And if you haven't followed Jim, you need to check out Jim. I'll tell you what, he says some stuff that I think is a little bit, it pushes the boundaries. Let's say it like that, Jim. But we do love your content. And again, thanks for jumping in. Looking forward to your session. Nandish, over to you. Obviously, you got a little kind of the internal support function, but you're in the thick of it trying to navigate that. What advice would you give to the audience?
I think start with the foundational layer. Like, make sure that your foundational layer is so strong, and then you can build on top of it. But don't be afraid to fail. This space, this industry is still evolving, and I think not everyone knows everything. So people are still evolving. People are still learning. New technologies are coming in. Don't be afraid to fail, but don't just be stuck and not try.
Yeah, and I appreciate that one. We had tons of people write in and say, we're not ready for quote unquote AI. Our data isn't good enough. Our tech isn't good enough. Our systems aren't good enough. Look, you got to have, Jim, I think we talked about this. You do need good data. Like, there is a level here, but progress over perfection. I think you guys, you're never going to be perfect. You got to start somewhere. I like that one, Nandish. Rita, we had an amazing, it's good to see you again. You guys are doing some crazy stuff over at Horatio. One of the BPOs, I think, is really pushing the boundaries and kind of the e-commerce retail, and now in a couple of the other industries you guys have expanded to. She started as a customer service rep. She's gone the whole gauntlet. She's now running teams and companies and structures. You're at the forefront of this. What advice are you giving to some of your clients to navigate these crazy times here?
You got to find out the problem you want to solve before you go running and investing in tools. So once you figure out that problem, can an AI solve it for me? If the AI cannot solve it, can it help me solve part of it? So you got to figure out what the problem is. Yeah,
because it does, right? It doesn't just come down to AI might not be the solution. There's other things. There's people. There's nearshore, offshore. There's other tools. So I think that one's becoming more and more valuable as we go through that here. Bryce, over to you. We're just trying to get quick advice on what would you give to some of these emerging leaders as being recognized as one of these award winners for really setting the stage, navigating these changing times. What advice would you give?
Listen to your front line. I would make sure that no matter what's happening and what you're trying to do, that you're listening to the people who are engaging with your customers that are there in the front. Honestly, any good leader is a good leader because their front line has equipped them to be such. And so empower them, find out what they're saying, find out what they're frustrated with, find out how they think AI can make you better, find out where they think AI is frustrating, but empower your front line.
I love it. I love it. You know, that's the customer service. I mean, during COVID, obviously we saw this group of individuals, they are at the forefront of taking the brunt of a lot of stuff. And with that brunt becomes some experience. They do know what they know. They know what's going on. They know what's working. They know what's not working. So love that one. Is it Thaisa? How do I say that? Jump in here and give us your quick advice.
Thaisa, yeah, basically. So I believe the impact as a leader doesn't come from 0 to 1 a few days, right?
Yeah.
So it's really a combination of context and having a clear what and how to be done, is bringing people together. It was mentioned here. So among one vision, having clear thinking criteria. So for me right now in AI context, the real challenge isn't like automating, but it's really like orchestrating complete journeys among AI and also humans.
Yeah. It feels like the combo, but I love the word orchestration because right now, I think where you guys have come in and what people were highlighting about you guys is you don't think about tools, you don't think about features, it's not even just about people, it's about transformation. Like, how do we get the results? Then you pull in the tools, the people, the features. And I think that's where some of you guys really were highlighted in the difference you guys are making in the space. We did get the Digital Witch. Oh my goodness, we made it. Thank you for joining. I didn't know if we'd get you. Your advice to the audience here.
Is that me?
We got her on mute. Let's see if we can get her unmuted. 1 second here.
Okay. Thank you.
We got it.
Okay, yeah. So thank you so much. So basically, for me, success is all about taking ownership, and I think that is what AI is not currently doing. Everybody would want to interact with human being, and you being the human being on the forefront, you just need to take ownership of your customer's success. And the other way is also to understand the customer's need, because if you don't understand the customer's need, there is no way you'll be able to also find way to exceed their expectations. So that is just that for me.
I love it. And Beth, last but not least, quick advice for the audience on what you're seeing in the market here.
Translation. I think that's going to be the biggest skill, being able to take the insight that you're seeing and being able to simplify it for your cross-functional partners that you're all aligned on the roadmap.
Fascinating. Awesome, you guys. Well, again, we wanted to see if we could recognize this. In fact, I'm going to do something really embarrassing. I'm going to ask you all to smile. I'm going to take a digital picture like we're part of the Brady Bunch here. So if you don't mind, just give me the quick 1, 2, 3, and we're going to 1, 2, 3. Yes, I got it. Okay. Again, we wanted to just pull you on quickly. We wanted to take a minute because, like I said, the feedback was overwhelming. People are looking for voices. They're looking for people like you to guide them because you guys are probably further. I don't think anybody here has all the answers, but you're further along. And you being willing to share with close friends, LinkedIn, different social channels has made a huge difference. So again, thank you for your time. We'll definitely be passing some assets. I think it's worth noting. So I'll let you guys jump off here and we will finish up today's event. But again, thank you for all that you have done. So feel free to jump and we'll pull you from there. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, we are finishing our event here. And again, thank you everybody for jumping in on that one. Just so again, I know we had some people coming kind of in and out, and I just want to take 1 minute and again, make sure you saw some of the recognition. We broke it into a couple different categories. Thought leader, we just heard from Thaisa, if I said that right. I'm sure I didn't. Kate, Kate, we had some great comments about some of the stuff you've done to help the market. Christy, is an advisor and coach. and then Carol doing some amazing stuff on that front. So that was thought leader. Again, congratulations, tons of recognition there. Then we did leader. So these are people actually in the roles, running the functional area, trying to make sense of all the change that's going on. Nino coming from customer first. Those guys are doing some really cool stuff. Alexander, Beth, we just heard from Beth. Thanks for jumping on, coming from the coffee company. We had some fun comments there. And then ultimately, Mercer, this is a great picture. Oh my goodness. You definitely get the award for the best picture on that front. The last two categories we had were operations. We heard from the Digital Witch, again, doing some really cool stuff. I think training people to kind of think through things a little bit differently. I'm loving Rita. Was so fun to interview, so much personality. You got to catch her session. I think, again, what she's doing at Horatio is super fun. Nandish, and then we finish up with Manish, who's kind of on that product side, doing some cool stuff more operationally for organizations. Last but not least, we talked about some of these companies who are helping outsource, companies thinking through what is working, what's not working. I think as I talked to a couple of these winners, I was amazed. Their roles are changing. It's not just I need to outsource my team. They're looking for consulting. They're looking for guidance. And so Jim, oh my goodness, some of the stuff he's doing, I think, again, it's a thought leader in thinking through your strategy, nearshore, offshore, etc. Again, Horatio, Jose, I got to catch up with Jose. I worked with them a lot when I was back at Customer and love what Horatio's doing. Bryce and Volo, I think there's some really cool stuff going on there. And ultimately, Sarah over at Support Ninja. I need to connect with Sarah. I do love Support Ninja and some of the stuff they're doing. But more than ever, these BPO organizations, I think, are getting consulting questions. They always got it, but I think what I'm hearing is fire hose type questions are coming their way. So anyway, wanted to make sure we went through those 4 categories. So fun to recognize them. And again, if you haven't already, connect with them on LinkedIn, thank them, welcome them, get some advice from them. They're happy to talk. They've talked to others and their advice has been greatly appreciated. So, all right, that is a wrap for our show. I wanted to just do 2 quick things before we end. I got to make sure you see the agenda one more time. So let me add that on stage. So now what we're going to do is a little bit different. We're going to go into an on-demand session. One of the feedbacks we heard as we were considering running this event was, Gabe, it's hard to get out to a physical event. Sometimes I see events that I can't get to. I need to be able to see stuff on my own time in my own way. We thought, why not make this really easy for you? And so this will be a Netflix type experience. You can grab these sessions, watch them today, watch them tomorrow, watch them in a week from now. No cost, no limit on that. This was meant to be a give back event. We're all learning here. I'm neck deep in this stuff. I feel like I know some, but if I thought I was the expert, we're not. You'll hear about some of these sessions. There's not a million case studies. There's stuff where people are in phase 1 and some in phase 2 and phase 3, but you're not that far behind if you feel like you are. Take a deep breath, watch some of these sessions. You're going to hear some great advice, some basic advice, people far, people not far, but digest it at your own time. Again, some of these I think are going to be fantastic. The Andrew's session, this one goes outside of the core contact center. And I think, again, in the CX world, it isn't just about the agent. Andrew talks about scaling the interaction with customers. How do you do that in a digital world? Fascinating session on that front. Bryce is helping companies think through how to build an outsourced model. What is the tech and what is the BPO you should be thinking about? I thought that one was super fun. Oh my goodness, Alan's Qualfon. Alan's deep in data and analytics, and you can just feel it when he talks about it, right? 20 years thinking it through, machine learning and automation and tech, and now generative AI. And some of his advice on the data piece, I think, is a must for some of these types of companies here. I mentioned Nick. I thought this, I just love Nick's session because waste management customer service. You're like, what does that even mean? You know, like some of the calls they get, some of the questions, you know, nobody picked up my trash. You know, like it's just a little different than your standard, I don't know, e-commerce or maybe software. So fun to see how they're thinking about rethinking some of their functional design as they go about their kind of day-to-day business. So anyways, more to see, more to come. Again, those will all be on demand starting as soon as I shut my mouth and get off this session. So you'll be able to have access to those. And again, can't watch them now, that's fine. Pick it up at your own time, share them. But most of all, make sure you connect with them. We need to build this community. We need to make sure we're all learning together. So I wanted to make sure I did that kind of play. And then last but not least, multiple people have asked me, how do I experience AI? And if you haven't already, this is a basic version, but I thought it'd be something fun for you to test, try out, and just say, hey, if I wanted to experience AI in some form or fashion in a very basic way, how would I do that? Talk to Miles. This is just an automated kind of AI agent, but it'll get you the flavor of how can I start using AI in my business? And so we thought that might be fun to try out. Here's a number. If you're international, apologize, that might be hard to call. But either way, might be a fun way to interact with an AI employee for customer service questions and start to think about how you could get AI into your business. So, okay, that was a fun one, you guys. AI CX is a wrap. Again, thank you for the nearly 10,000 people came to want to learn more today. 20 plus speakers volunteered their time. Hopefully you'll get what you need. Let's all learn together. Sometimes the journey's the reward. I'll leave you with that. Have a fantastic day.